It feels amazing to be back in the saddle again. And by saddle, I mean my nice, comfy leather computer chair that I'm sitting in for the first time in a week because I just got back from vacation a couple of nights ago and we have got a lot to catch up on. Holy shit. I originally intended to come up here tomorrow night after Raw, review the show, and then catch up on everything I missed. But I missed a lot. And I don't want to worry about keeping people up late on Monday night listening to me spew out my thoughts on all the shit that I missed when I was in Hawaii. So I decided that we would change things up a bit today. We had a watch-along scheduled for tonight. We still do, but the show we're going to watch has changed to a 2-hour show, allowing me to come up here a little bit early today and do a big podcast to catch up on the big world title changes that we saw this week on television from the two big promotions. We got pay-per-views coming up. We have Redemption. We have All In. We have SummerSlam. So much to get into. We have title changes, returns, re-signings, departures, all sorts of shit to get into. And I was like, you know what? That's going to make the podcast go way too late on Monday night. If you're on the East Coast, you're going to be staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning listening to my bald ass talk. So I thought it would be much better to come up here today to try to catch up on all that stuff. And we'll probably still be here tomorrow for a Raw review as well. But we really got to talk about what went down. Now, for those of you who don't know, I have been off camera for about the past 8 days or so because I went on a family vacation to Hawaii, which I do every couple of years. And I was in Maui for about a week. And while I was there, we had the big news of Sheamus's WWE departure. Then on Monday Night Raw, CM Punk comes back and wins the WWE Championship in Chicago. And then on Wednesday, on Dynamite Beach Break, Kenny Omega beats MJF to become the AEW World Champion, turning a lot of these shows and upcoming pay-per-views on their ear. So while I was on vacation, I released 4 shorts. I came up to talk about, well, I released something on 4th of July, just a happy 4th of July wish to everyone. I was at a drone show. And then I came up real quick, few thoughts on Sheamus, few thoughts on Punk, few thoughts on Omega, but that was just real quick, me sitting in my hotel room. So I needed to come up here in a more official capacity to talk about everything that went down this week, specifically the 2 big world championship victories by CM Punk and Kenny Omega, 2 people right in the center of the Brawl Out fiasco about 4 years ago, and Kenny Omega, the protector of Larry, with all the bad blood that went on between CM Punk and the Elite. We all had been told and were hearing multiple times that there was no real super bad blood between Kenny and Punk. As a matter of fact, Kenny tried to play peacemaker and tried to get poor little Larry out of Dodge. And now, of course, Larry has since passed away last year, and a lot of things are different, but it is interesting to see Kenny Omega and CM Punk, both world champions in separate companies at the same time. Still a match I don't think we ever got, did we? So that's interesting. And of course, now the plan is in motion for SummerSlam, which we suspected Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. We'll talk about how all that went down, what's going on with Gunther and Nick Aldis, also Sami Zayn, who only had the WWE Championship for 9 days. By the way, today is Sami's birthday. Whatever the biggest super chat we get today, I'm not expecting a lot. It's probably just going to be a small amount anyway, but whatever the biggest super chat we get today, I will match it and we will donate that to Sammy for Syria. That is a charity we like to donate to a lot here on the channel. And since it's Sammy's birthday, I think he posted a video message today on Instagram, I believe, where he was asking, for my birthday, help out the cause. So that's what we will do today. Just a small amount. We'll dedicate something bigger in the future, but at least wanted to throw a few bucks to Sammy's charity, considering that poor Sami Zayn lost the WWE Championship on Monday night, and a lot of people were really, really bummed out for him. So we're going to unpack all of that, my thoughts on that, and what I think this is going to mean for SummerSlam, CM Punk's future, his match now with Cody Rhodes, and everything going on in WWE land. We also have lots of stuff going on in AEW land, a couple of new champions over there, Kyle Fletcher and Kenny Omega, new #1 contender for the women's title in Willow Nightingale, plus Hangman Page returned last night on Collision, so a lot of AEW stuff to get into as well, along with Redemption and an All-In preview as we look at those. In terms of wrestling news, we are going to get into Sheamus's departure from WWE, Baron Corbin's return to WWE. We're going to talk about the SummerSlam attendance issues. We're going to talk about some re-signings in AEW with the Dark Order and Jack Perry. We'll touch a little bit on Jake Hager and Conor McGregor. Also, we've got an update on Rhea Ripley, and I'll talk a little bit about the first 2 episodes of Dark Side of the Ring Season 7, which the first 3 episodes is basically a 3-part episode of Jeff Jarrett and TNA. They released the first 2 parts last week. I think part 3 airs this Tuesday, and I watched the first 2 parts on the plane on my way home here from Maui on Friday. So I will talk to you a little bit about that. Of course, I was on the plane, so I wasn't making notes or anything like that. Just going to kind of go by memory here, and we'll do a more thorough review of the entire series as these episodes are released one by one. But anyway, thanks for being here. It's a Sunday afternoon. I did not pre-advertise this before yesterday. It was yesterday afternoon that I decided, I don't think Monday night's too long to wait for me to come up here and talk about all this stuff. We need to do it ASAP. I was too busy yesterday to try to get a podcast together because I was still unwinding. I'm still kind of on Hawaii time, trying to get through that. So I was a little discombobulated yesterday. Didn't think yesterday was a good day for a podcast, but today is, and we got a lot to get into. So basically, that's what's on the menu. We'll probably go for about 2 hours here. We'll wrap things up about 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. We'll take an hour break, and then we will be back for this watch-along tonight. WWE in your house. International incident. This went down nearly 30 years ago, and we're going to watch this one tonight. It's only a 2-hour show. Originally, we were going to watch Fully Loaded 1999. I had this one advertised, but I decided to bump Fully Loaded to next week. So 1 week from tonight is when we'll be watching this, Fully Loaded 1999. Since we were going to do a pretty long podcast today, I thought that shortening tonight's watch-along would probably be better, so I'm not just on camera for 6 fucking hours straight. So Fully Loaded 1999 bumped to next week, July 19th, and tonight we are going to be watching this one, International Incident in Your House. I have a lot of memories about it. I'll be sharing with you later on. So much went down leading up to this main event that you see right here with Psycho Sid and the Ultimate Warrior, and I was right smack dab in the middle of it. I was right smack dab in the middle of that whole situation because I was in Michigan for a family vacation, and I went to a house show at Joe Louis Arena the night that Warrior no-showed and got fired. Vince McMahon's personal secretary, Beth Zaza, who was wonderful to me as a kid, got me backstage. Gerald Briscoe came and found me, brought me back with my dad. We did a meet and greet, got to see everybody. Very cool stuff. And that night, Psycho Sid returned to replace the Ultimate Warrior and beat Owen Hart one-on-one. And I believe that was a Saturday night. Two nights later on Raw, they reveal that Psycho Sid is the replacement for the Ultimate Warrior. So I actually knew that before that even aired on Raw because I was at the house show that Sid returned on. And I remember thinking it was weird to see Sid there because last time he was on TV, he was a heel. And now he comes out and beats up Owen Hart. And I remember being like, what the fuck is going on here? And then it all made sense on Monday Night Raw when Ahmed Johnson and Shawn Michaels reveal Sid as their third man to go up against Camp Cornette in that main event. So International Incident 1996 in your house. We will be watching that tonight, right after this podcast. So anyway, there you go. That's what's on the menu. Let me cruise over here to the chat real quick, knock out some hellos and some pleasantries, and then we can get in to business. And we got a lot of business. I have some loud noises outside. I'm going to shut my window, but it's hot as hell. I mean, I thought it was hot in Hawaii. I got back to San Diego, and it's still hot, so try to have my window open, but I got some chatterboxes outside, so we're going to go ahead and close that for right now while we get ourselves all set. And like I said, let me just say hi to everyone in the chat. I missed y'all. Hope you missed me. I mean, I did try to pop in. I mean, I did give you 4 videos while I was gone, 4 shorts. So if you missed me, you did get some content on the channel in the form of some very low-tech shorts. I just recorded them with my iPhone 17. No microphone, no nothing, bad lighting. But still wanted to give you guys some thoughts on what was going down while I was on vacay. But anyway, it is good to see our friends like Wesley. Good to see you. That was what you typed. That was the message you sent. Back to you, buddy. We got Jim K in the house. Melissa, what's up? Hawaii was great, my friend. It was awesome. Good to see Ryan Adams. Thank you for all the updates while I was gone. You were very good about tagging me and shit on Twitter and letting me know things that were going down, whether I was out at dinner or at lunch or at the pool or at the beach or whatever I was doing. Ryan was hooking me up with all the updates over there on social media. By the way, follow me on Twitter @GoodMikeWork. That is where I am the most active, even though I hate Elon's hell site. It's where I have the most followers, so it's where I have the most activity. So if you want to see thoughts or hear thoughts from me or read thoughts from me, check me out over on X, I guess it's called. It'll always be Twitter to me. Zach, good to see you, bro. Man, you always remind me, I got to change those icons. Those little emojis have been sitting there forever. I got to update those. There's so much I need to do on the back end of the channel here just to update it and polish it up, clean it up. I'm working on that, and I thank you guys for your patience. Afro Money, good to see you. Ricky Zalvadar's in the house. So is Trey. So is William. We also have Epic Rye Guy. Some good mic work and a big-ass bowl of ice cream to end my weekend off right. I don't really think you can end a weekend better than watching me and eating ice cream. That's the pinnacle. That's what everybody should aspire to do with your weekends. Finish it off with our watch-along while you're eating a big-ass bowl of fucking mint chip or whatever the hell you like. I like mint chip. Good to see you, though, Epic. We got David Brown in the house. Ben Espinoza is here, mentioning the same thing I just mentioned a minute ago about Punk and Omega both being world champions. That is interesting, like mine's. Surge is in the house. Good to see Zach with the double dose of Greg. Yep, that's true. Double dose. Rarely Even is here. Appreciate that $5, sir. People say WWE is formulaic and predictable. It is. Then they go and do something not formulaic and unpredictable, and people shit all over it. We all knew Punk was coming back in Chicago. And once Cody was attacked, we knew he was going to be winning the title. So it wasn't that unpredictable, but I get what you are saying. Whenever WWE surprises us, people complain. There was a lot of complaining about CM Punk winning the WWE Championship. Rarely Even you want to know one person who didn't complain? This guy. I thought it was great. None of that shit bothers me at all. I think fans are fucking idiots sometimes, and I think the biggest beacon of idiocy coming from the fans this week was when they're putting the word Hogan next to CM Punk, or the name Hogan next to any wrestler's first name that they deem as someone who wins too much. And to me, all that does is just raise a big ass red flag that waves, I'm an idiot. Because it's so stupid for people to be that simple-minded. They did it with Rhea Ripley. They did it with Becky Lynch. It's the fans who do this, by the way, the ones who put Hogan next to a wrestler's name who wins too much, weren't even born when Hogan had his last fucking match. They are children with children minds because only a child with a childlike mind would be stupid enough to think that. So, yes, fans were shitting it all over it. Everybody has a right to their opinion. I wasn't shitting all over it. Just like I wasn't shitting on Ospreay and what the fuck did we just watch at the pay-per-view? Forbidden Door. Ospreay, Swerve. That tremendous match. I loved it. You kick out too much and blah, blah, blah. Not me, man. I'm just here to have fun. That's all. So I loved that. And I liked Punk winning on Monday night as well. Of course you feel bad for Sammy. We all do. But it was cool to see Punk come back and become the person that he said years ago in his very own podcast with Colt Cabana, becoming that person. You know, in order to, to really make it, you have to become the part-timer, that the company wants you to be, and working the type of schedule and have the drawing power and all of that. And when Punk left WWE, he wasn't there yet. He's there now. And Punk is not being a hypocrite. Punk's becoming exactly what he said he needed to become to be considered a top draw in modern pro wrestling. And I had no issue with it whatsoever. But we're going to talk about the backlash and the opinions and that type of stuff. And I'm sure there's plenty of people in this chat right now that weren't too thrilled with CM Punk winning the title. I got no problem with that. I just personally didn't have a problem with it. That's all. But yeah, people were shitting on it. Some were. Jacob is here. So is Nick Steele. We got Nick Steele in the house. Always good to see Michael Cuomo. Been with us for a long time. Thank you for 5 more, Rarely Even. I'm referring to this CM Hogan crap. I just talked about that. Every time someone wins a title they don't like, they're Hulk Hogan. I just said that. I didn't even realize that you were following up with that. But I 100% agree. I think when you put Hogan next to somebody's name, it just means you're an idiot. That's all. That's all it's going to tell me. That's what I'm going to come away with, knowing about you, if you do that. Well, he's dumb. Might be a nice guy, but he's dumb. Because that's just not fucking accurate, and it's ridiculous. Rodrigo's here. Good to see Daniel Mendola, too. Hell yeah. Ian Dunn, good to see you, my friend. Rarely Even's $5 spamming us. Thank you so much for that. Did you fly to Hawaii? I hate flying. Airports suck. No, I drove. So I drove to Hawaii. It sucks, though, because once you start going underwater, the ocean gets deeper and deeper. So you have to have your windows rolled up all the way. And if you have a window cracked, water gets in, fish gets in, shark might bite your cock off. It's very dangerous, but I don't like to fly either. So whenever I go to Hawaii, I prefer to drive. We also have Mike Witt. Good to see you, bro. Jake, OTC, is here. Ben, I think I got you right. Gilbert, Denny Downbad is here. BLK Start. Hello, hello. I am Groot. We've got Titanium Titan. And I kind of lost my place, so everybody else that is here, thank you so much for being here. And I think I've spent enough time flapping my gums because we got business to get into. Lots of it. So let's start with the feller, Phillip Brooks, who you see right there on the screen. We're going to go all the way back 6 days ago to Monday Night Raw. I was on day 3 in Maui. And it's supposed to be Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn for the WWE Championship. We knew something was going to go on. I think most of us on Monday night were under the assumption going into the show prior to the show airing, because it was in Chicago, we all knew there was nobody surprised that CM Punk showed up in Chicago. None of us were surprised that he returned to WWE on that night because we knew he would. He's been off TV since WrestleMania or the night after, and you are not going to have a big Raw in Chicago after he's been gone for so long with SummerSlam right on the horizon that he needs to be there to have a big match for. There's absolutely no way that he's not going to be on the show. So when they booked Sami Zayn and Cody on Raw, not SmackDown, they booked this for Raw so they can drop the CM Punk angle. I think a lot of us were thinking that Punk was going to interfere. What he's going to do is he's going to come out and interfere, maybe cost Cody the championship, and that's going to lead to CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes, because Rarely Even was talking a minute ago about WWE doing things that are unpredictable. None of this was too unpredictable. We've known basically since the night after WrestleMania that it was probably going to be Cody and Punk at SummerSlam. If not SummerSlam, they were teasing the following year's WrestleMania main event. But SummerSlam was very likely. So when they booked Cody and Sami for the championship on Raw in Chicago on a night that CM Punk is going to come back, he hasn't been advertised or talked about at all, we thought he was going to show up and maybe try to help Cody or to thwart Sami cheating or doing something sketchy. Maybe he'll fuck up, cost Cody the title. Sami survives, goes on to, have a defense, and then you got Cody and Punk in this rivalry, but with no title on the line. But I was skeptical about that too, because after WrestleMania, the whole thing was about the title. It was CM Punk looking at Cody's title and saying, you never know when a title opportunity is going to fall out of the sky. And Cody said something along the lines of just say when. Just say when. And so to not do that match for the title now would be kind of weird. So this all started becoming clearer to us once Raw went on the air on Monday. And I hadn't quite put the show on yet because I forgot that Raw was on Netflix. I'm literally sitting at the pool and I tweet something about Raw updates or something like that. And then it hits me. I'm like, wait a minute, it's on fucking Netflix. I can watch Raw right on my phone. So I pick up Raw about 20 minutes into the show. But by then, guys like Ryan and some of you were tagging me on social media, telling me that Cody Rhodes got attacked by Gunther, and we don't know what's going to happen now. So Cody gets attacked by Gunther backstage, gets powerbombed through a table, and then Cody has to be evaluated by the medical staff. And it is determined a few segments later that Cody Rhodes will be unable to compete in the main event, which I think my favorite part of the whole show on Monday night, last Monday, was Sami being like, wow, I mean, Cody's one of my good friends. Obviously, I don't want to see this happen to him, but, I just think that this title match is a bad idea. It's been cursed from the beginning, hasn't felt right. I just won't worry about defending my title tonight and acting all concerned, like, I guess I just can't defend my title. Oh, well. So you knew what was coming. And Adam Pearce was like, not so fast. You are going to defend the title tonight. I promised Chicago a championship match in the main event, and that's what they are going to get. And by that point, the writing was on the wall. Once that Once that piece of information was dropped by Adam Pearce, there you go. CM Punk isn't going to come back to interfere in the championship match. He's going to come back and compete in the championship match and win it. So he only went one day, basically, between being world champion and world champion again, because he lost the title to Roman Reigns, appeared on Monday Night Raw, hasn't been on TV since, comes back to Raw, wins the championship. So the last time Punk was on TV, essentially, he was basically champion, world champion. He had just dropped the title. So, again, you don't know who his opponent is yet. I mean, we do. It's not officially announced. Adam Pearce just promises Sami Zayn that he will have a match. So then we fast forward to the main event. Sami Zayn comes out. He's got the title. And the camera goes all the way to the back to reveal the big garage door kind of like lifting up, I believe, right? And as it lifts up, you see CM Punk right there in his gear. I guess he just got dropped off by an Uber, full gear, like Pac at the AEW press conference when they first started. That still cracks me up, by the way. Shows up in full gear, walks right through into Gorilla, Cult of Personality plays, and he is the challenger for Sami Zayn. And Punk has not had a match in, 3 months or whatever it is, and this match was actually pretty good. It was not bad. I mean, for a WWE match, obviously it's not Ospreay and Swerve, of course, but, for matches that I'm used to seeing in WWE, quality of matches from Sami Zayn, CM Punk, great professionals like this. Punk coming back after all this time off, in great shape, because we saw he got jacked, right? And him and Sami had a pretty decent match. I mean, they're throwing Blue Thunder bombs and GTSs left and right. Sami hit Punk with a GTS, and it looked pretty good. I think he hit a better GTS than Punk does. But Punk then returned the favor by, I think he ducked out of the way of a haluva kick, only to hit Sami with a haluva kick of his own, and then pick Sami up, hit him with the GTS. Sami sells it like $1 million. Punk covers him, wins the WWE Championship, and recreates the kiss, because don't forget, they were in Chicago. I don't know what the Rosemount is called these days, Allstate, I think, right? Same building that Money in the Bank 2011 was in when Punk beat John Cena 15 years, nearly to the day. After that match, same venue, World Championship main event, this time on TV instead of pay-per-view. Punk wins the title, goes right to the very same spot that he blew the kiss to Vince McMahon. Same part of the barricade. Blows the kiss again, takes off, and even when he gets home, he recreates the belt in the refrigerator picture, which was just wonderful. So Punk is now world champion. This now positions him in a match with Cody Rhodes. Now, you do have to wonder why Sami was given the title, like to be a transitional champion to get the belt to Punk. But if Punk winds up beating Cody at SummerSlam, which I kind of think he will, because otherwise you're hot potato in that fucking belt a lot, just like AEW is doing right now. WWE might try to match AEW's hot tater in here by passing that belt around a little bit. But if Punk beats Cody at SummerSlam, my question is, why didn't he just beat him for the championship? Why did Cody even have to lose the title to Sami to begin with if he's just going to drop it to Punk anyway? Whereas, if Cody wins, well, I guess it doesn't matter either way. Regardless of who wins, the title is still there. So Sami Zayn's title run, to me anyway, didn't even feel like it served much of a purpose, because you could still do this with Cody and Punk regardless. My only thought is that maybe, Punk coming back and challenging Cody Rhodes outright, some fans might view that as him skipping the line. What they did on Monday creates a different scenario where they're scrambling to find a challenger, and then Punk gets the opportunity because of the chaos, instead of just saying, hey, I want a shot at that title, and everybody else being like, hey, you've been off TV for 3 months, asshole. No way. But this way, maybe it makes the story a little more cohesive, or make a little bit more sense for him to be the mystery partner, for Adam Pearce to be scrambling around looking for a quality opponent for Sami Zayn, somebody that's on the level of CM Punk, or I'm sorry, of Cody Rhodes. You can't just send out fucking Otis out there to face Sami Zayn. If you promise Sami and Cody, you have to deliver them a main event of equal or greater value, right? Theoretically. So Punk makes sense in that regard, where if Punk just showed up last Friday on SmackDown and just challenge Cody for the title, maybe, fans might still have a problem with it, like they had a problem on Monday night. Oh, he comes back and he wins the title, and it's just like Hogan at WrestleMania 9. No, it isn't. It is absolutely nothing like that at all. Nothing like that at all. At all. Hogan was gone a hell of a lot longer than CM Punk. And Punk coming back right after he was just previously in the world title picture to set up a match that was rumored ever since WrestleMania. This does appear to be the plan. And that's one good thing I will say about WWE, at least currently, with their creative. And their creative is a mess and discombobulated, and it's flat and it's cold, and and their attendance is reflecting that. However, when it comes to the three, what it looks to be big matches at SummerSlam, Cody, Punk, Brock, Oba, Rollins, Reigns, it feels like those have been the plan since WrestleMania. It feels like nothing has really been tweaked or changed there. Those were the three matches WWE has been planning to do at SummerSlam ever since WrestleMania. So at least they're staying the course. And I think those three matches look pretty good on the marquee. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's a 2-night SummerSlam. Number one, I think SummerSlam should go back to arenas and go back to one night. Just make it a 4-hour show or something and try to cut down your commercials. You don't need to spread this shit out over 2 nights. But they have 3 big matches here, and one of them's not going to be able to main event. I mean, I feel like the championship matches need a main event night 1 and night 2. Roman and Seth, night 1, Punk and Cody, night 2, and Brock and Oba, I think, needs to open one of the 2 nights on ESPN. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't think Brock and Oba will be a main event. It could. You could also open with a championship match. You could open with Rollins and Reigns if you wanted to, but I think like the Hell in the Cell might be better for ESPN or something like that. And then you have your title matches main eventing. That's my guess. But the 3 matches so far look pretty good there on the marquee, and this appears to be what WWE's plan was all along. Now, in terms of how the belts are situated, maybe with Punk especially, maybe that wasn't exactly the plan. Maybe the plan was for Punk to challenge Cody for the title at SummerSlam, but then they decided to pivot, give Sami the championship in Saudi Arabia in case next year doesn't work out, which that's very possible. There might not be any room in the championship picture for Sami next year at WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. So WWE might know that. Maybe Triple H can see that future and be like, man, if we've been waiting, we've been to tell the story with Sami. He wins in Saudi Arabia. But next year, we might have Oba and Reigns planned and this and that planned. And shit, what do we do with Sami? We better give him the title now. I think that's a more likely scenario than the story that's been floating around. I think Kevin Nash mentioned something on Click This podcast that Sami was asked to take a pay cut. He agreed, and as a reward, they gave him the title for 9 days. Nash, I doubt that that's true. I don't know where he gets this information. I mean, he is buddies with Triple H. Maybe Triple H told him, or maybe Kevin Nash just had a little bit too much Cabernet Sauvignon, which happens to the best of us. So I don't really believe that story, but I feel like the likelihood of Sami not having a spot in that world title picture at next year's WrestleMania could play into why they gave him the title at Night of Champions. That's my guess. So now Punk is the champion, and he's going to be challenged by Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam, which we will get into in a minute when we talk about SmackDown. But in terms of Monday Night Raw, Punk's victory was something that created a lot of online chatter. Maybe WWE did that by design, because we've been talking for months, even since last year, that CM Punk is probably going to go heel at some point. And I think he should in this match with Cody Rhodes, or in this feud anyway with Cody Rhodes. I would like to see this stretched out all the way to War Games and have Team Cody and Team Punk. That would be fun. But, in terms of Raw and how he won it, I think if Punk winds up turning heel, something like this makes it easier for the fans to boo him, because he had a lot of fans complaining. Like I said, I did not participate in this complaining. I was in Maui. What the fuck do I care, about this shit? I saw people with the most passionate opinions about this and so mad, and the CM Hogans and all this. And I just think that today's generation is incapable of like managing their emotions. They're all fucking unstable. They're all fucking medicated, and they just cannot handle something that they're not expecting without having to fly off the rails about it. I'm like, this is not that big a deal, guys. It's just fucking Sami Zayn lost the title to CM Punk. Now it's Punk and Cody for the championship. That's the match we thought we were going to get all along anyway. So the outrage over this, and Punk comes back and takes a title shot, and he's turning into exactly what he hates. I'm like, no, he's turning into exactly what he needs to be to reach that same success that guys like Brock and Roman and Hogan have had in the past. He acknowledged that himself in the Colt Cabana podcast 12 years ago, all the way back in 2014, whatever the fuck that was, and talked about this very fact. He's now turned into, that draw that doesn't have to go out there and, bust his ass like a dog. He can come back in, and the execs, the network execs, USA Network, they wanted Phil on SmackDown, and they got it done. And so now he's there. He's champion. We got Punk to SmackDown now, as this will probably be his last appearance on Raw, although he might show up there to during the build to SummerSlam. But him winning on Raw was not, to me anyway, anything super controversial. Wasn't worth making a 2-hour fucking YouTube video ranting about it, or, falsely calling Punk a hypocrite, which he is in some cases. In this case, he's not. There's nothing hypocritical about what CM Punk did. CM Punk does not have the pencil. Triple H does. So Punk is a hypocrite in some other ways. I think he'll even admit that. But in terms of this particular title one, Punk's a hypocrite? What the fuck? Go to school and look up what hypocrite means. Jesus Christ. What do you mean he's a hypocrite? He went out there and did what he was booked to do. They called him to work. Hey, you're going to go out there and do this, have this match with this person, you're going to win. Okay. I don't know where the controversy is, but boy, oh boy, did it piss a lot of people off. But guess who it didn't piss off? Greg. Greg doesn't give a shit. Also on Monday Night Raw, we saw brand new tag team champions crowned as Maxine Dupree turns heel. We knew this was coming. It was Braun Breaker and Theory. They took on the Street Profits for the title on Monday night. Maxine, who they've been teasing in a kind of a little alliance or relationship with Austin Theory lately. She low blows, I think it's Dawkins, and low blows him hard. I mean, my God, his grapefruits must be, like Tommy Dreamer after he got hit with the cane, right in his testicles. Boy, Maxine dropped him, didn't she? Jesus, that led to the Vision getting the win, winning the tag team titles, and then Maxine, the recently married Maxine, really makes out hard with Austin Theory. That's got to be a hard job. Hey, you go to work. Hey, we're going to need you to go out there and make out with Maxine Dupree. Well, if I got to do it, okay, I guess I guess I can just suck it up and, make out with this hideous person. So like, what a tough day at the office for Austin Theory. You get to go to work and you're going to win a championship. Oh, by the way, you're going to make out with Maxine too. Hope that's okay. I can do that. So anyway, the Vision are the new tag team champions. Looks like Paul Heyman has kind of dumped them, though. Backstage after they win, Heyman approaches them and says good job or whatever. And Theory's like, thank you so much, wise man. We're just trying to make you proud. And Paul goes, I was talking to her. So it sounds like the Vision are... Heyman is going to be tied to Brock right now, and probably just him. And then it's the Vision's job to try to impress Heyman enough to take them back. Is that what's going on here? I mean, this is the heel faction that has their heel manager, kind of insulting them and shit. So I don't know. I mean, obviously Heyman's disappointed in Breaker's loss to Rollins, also getting speared by Breaker. I don't feel like Heyman has really ever been on board with Austin Theory, and the Vision might be going the way of a Ryback or a Curtis Axel or a Cesaro. Who else did Heyman have that didn't work out? And now Maxine, maybe she's going to be a Heyman girl. So Maxine being a heel, what I've always liked about her is some of the same things I like about someone like Javon Evans, is that I just love their energy. I love their enthusiasm. I love their youth. They both have smiles that'll just light up a room. Maxine would come out and just, the way she was so energetic in her matches, and you just wanted to root for her, even though, in the ring, she ain't no Eddie Guerrero in there, but it's impossible to not want to root for her. You just want to. And so now for her to turn around and be a heel, I'm interested to see what it will be like one day when Javon Evans has to go heel, because he's like the same as Maxine, to where it's almost impossible to try to view him in a different light, because he really does bring a smile to your face when you see him. Whenever I see Javon or whenever I see Maxine, I'm like, oh, I like them. So now that Maxine's a heel, I'm interested to see how she does with this, because who knows? She might turn out to be the greatest fucking heel, and she might be a hot addition to that faction, who can be sassy on the mic and then, of course, just be, a goddamn fucking smoke show to look at, and can add a lot of attitude to them. So I'm curious, I guess, or anxious, I should say, to see how Maxine handles the role of a heel. And I hope she blows it away. Because she's awesome. So anyway, her and Austin Theory are now a romantic item on TV, and we'll see where this goes. Congrats to the Vision, new WWE Tag Team Champions. Although Braun Breaker, you have to wonder what he's doing. His stock just feels like it's dropped. Same with Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu was working on Friday night with fucking Solo Sikoa. I didn't even watch the match. I didn't give a shit. I did not even care what happened in that match at all. That's why when it comes to Raw and SmackDown and Dynamite, we're only talking about the highlights. We're not getting into match-by-match results here. No time for that. But when, when the Vision outside of the Street Profits, who do you think would be their next immediate challengers too? That's another thing I was thinking about with Breaker and what they've done with him and Jacob Fatu. These are two guys that, we thought were going to be WrestleMania main eventers, and, Breaker's kind of shit the bed a little bit. Jacob Fatu, all of my interest in him has been lost ever since the Roman Reigns thing. And now you've got this Samoan family feud inside of the already existing angle, and I just don't care about it at all. So I feel bad that Jacob and Breaker have seen kind of a decline or drop in their spots, because I don't think it should be like that. I think they need to heat these guys back up again, and that is also a natural feud in the future. They've already teased it a couple of times, so we will see. Also on Monday Night Raw, big long promo between LA Knight and Seth Rollins. Rollins talked forever. LA Knight kind of did as well, but LA Knight's just a little bit more charming on the mic than Seth Rollins is. We also had Sol Ruca defeating Raquel Rodriguez to retain the Intercontinental title, and Paul Heyman and Oba Femi had an in-ring face-off talking about the big Hell in the Cell match at SummerSlam against Brock Lesnar, which I'm expecting Oba Femi to win at SummerSlam. Just a matter of where that match takes place. So that catches us up on Monday Night Raw. We got that out of the way. Like I said, we didn't talk about all of it, but I wanted to talk about Punk's title win, and I wanted to talk about what happened to Cody, the tag team title change, the heel turn, and a couple of other things. But now we should move on to this past Friday's SmackDown. A couple days ago, WWE aired SmackDown, and thank Jesus that we are back to 2-hour SmackDowns. My God. So many months of that 3-hour bullshit, and now the shows are officially back to 2 hours just for the rest of the year, I guess. And then when we get to Royal Rumble and WrestleMania time, they're going to be back to 3 hours again. But this is a much easier show to watch now. And of course, it was opened up with our new WWE champion, CM Punk. Sami Zayn was not on the show. They said he was taking a mental health break, but he will be back soon because he was actually booked in a tag team match for Saturday night's main event coming up in a couple weeks, or next week, or whenever the fuck that is. So Punk comes out with the championship. Oh, I guess, well, before he does, before Punk comes out, Nick Aldis is out there, and Nick Aldis announces that he has been reinstated. Then he calls out CM Punk. Punk enters the ring, the new champion. He's sporting a black eye. Even after the match with Sammy, he had kind of a busted lip too. So, they were potatoing each other a little bit there because Punk had a bloody lip, and showing up on SmackDown with the black eye. And this is such a weird reference. I don't even know if anybody's going to even understand what the fuck I'm talking about here. Curb Your Enthusiasm fans, right? Anybody out there, Curb Your Enthusiasm fans? I don't know what it is about this picture of CM Punk right here. I think it has to do with the black eye. But for some reason, CM Punk in that photo with Cody reminds me of Richard Lewis near the end of his, because Richard Lewis passed away, near the end of his Curb Your Enthusiasm run. He always looked real frail, real pale looking, and Punk is jacked in great shape. He had a great match with Sammy on Monday, but that black eye just kind of made him look a little bit, I don't know, kind of looked a little dirty or something, but he kind of reminded me of like Richard Lewis, who just came off real frail and weird looking on the show. And then, of course, Richard passed away after the final season had aired. But I don't know why but when I looked at that picture of Punk, I'm like, he looks like Richard Lewis to me. I don't know why. I don't know why I think that. Just a weird thing, weird comparison my brain made. So Punk is now in the ring. He's got the title. And he says he's not going to be sitting at home. He's going to defend this title as much as he can. He talked about the negotiations that got him over to SmackDown and blew a little smoke there, even though we knew that right after WrestleMania, it was something that I was saying. I'm like, you got to get Punk to SmackDown. Because back then, Gunther was still on Raw. And so I was looking at Raw like the land of the giants. I'm like, you got Obafemi, you got Roman Reigns, you've got Gunther, you've got Jacob Fatu, you've got Braun Breaker. Well, Jacob's kind of now on SmackDown, but it felt like all these monsters were on Raw. Monsters that could murder a 47-year-old man like CM Punk, or however old he is. He's a couple years younger than me. So my thought was send Punk to SmackDown. That would be a much better environment for him. That's something that I've been expecting all along. So Punk talked about the negotiations that got him over to SmackDown. And in the real world, the USA executives wanted him over there as well. They've been making a play for Punk, or mentioning that, I guess, that they want him over there as well. So Punk then says he's going to be defending the title all the time, as much as he can, and talks about everybody who deserves a shot, like Sami Zayn. If Sami Zayn wants a shot, he'll give it to him. Gunther deserves a shot. And Punk says, hey, we all remember what happened last time we wrestled, and that was also for the championship at last year's SummerSlam, right? It was Punk beat Gunther in a match that I thought was really good. That's when I kind of officially became a believer in saying, okay, even at this age, Punk is just still very good in the ring. He really is. As a matter of fact, I put up a poll on Twitter earlier because I was just curious to hear what you guys thought, and it does not have many votes. 30 fucking votes. Jesus Christ. Get over. Oh, no, it's got 40 now. Get over to Twitter and vote on my fucking poll. And I wanted to ask you guys, who is better in the ring? Or who do you think is better in the ring, between the ropes, between Cody Rhodes and CM Punk? And right now, Cody Rhodes, even with a small amount of votes, has CM Punk has 82% of the votes. Most people believe Punk is better in the ring. I always thought Cody was a little bit more athletic. Cody even has the athletic background when he was younger, as an amateur wrestler and whatnot. Punk was, just kind of a punk rock kid, didn't really get in the gym very much. He worked backyard wrestling style. He was self-trained. Cody is a Rhodes, man. He's a little bit more athletic, agile, more light on his feet, all around in terms of, athleticism. But that doesn't exactly mean you're better in the ring than someone else. It just means you might have a little bit more agility, maybe a little bit lighter on your feet, more of an athletic background, where I think Cody played sports, Punk did not. I don't even think Punk watches sports outside of hockey. So I always thought, Cody Rhodes might have the edge there, but everybody is saying CM Punk. So head over to X, vote on my poll. I want to see what the numbers say before we sign off here today. But Cody, I lost my train of thought now, but in terms of Cody and Punk, that match now being set for SummerSlam it would be when they were talking and Punk talking about all the people that deserves a shot, running through all those names, even mentioning Finn Balor. That's when Cody comes out. So he mentions Sammy, he mentions Balor, he mentions Gunther. And that's when he hasn't mentioned Cody. You would think Cody would be at the top of his list, maybe even ahead of Sammy. But Cody, he doesn't mention at all. So when he's rolling through these names, you're watching SmackDown on Friday, 100% what is happening. Now, I was in the air. Yeah, I was flying when SmackDown aired. on Friday, so I didn't get to see it till I got home. But when Punk is rolling through those names, you know Cody's coming out. American Nightmare plays, or Kingdom play. What is the name of his song? Cody's music hits. He comes out. Punk just smirks because he knew it was coming. And they go face to face there. And Punk says, hey, what do you want to talk about? And blah, blah, blah. A few little shots at each other, but very light so far. Punk even acknowledges the friendship between the two of them and says he does not want that to end. And Cody says, you know, they keep it short and sweet. What I liked about this is they didn't have to go for an hour like Rollins and Reigns did. Cody comes out and basically says, hey, the last time we were in the ring, this situation kind of mirrored itself. It was me, champion, and you had mentioned you never know when a title opportunity might fall out of the sky. Well, one fell out of the sky for you on Monday night, and what I told you last time we were here in the ring together was just say when. And then Punk immediately says, when? Just gets right in his face, when? When? And Cody says, how about SummerSlam? And Punk says, let's do it. They shake hands. Aldis is still in the ring. He says, it's official. This is your SummerSlam main event. CM Punk defending the WWE Championship against Cody Rhodes. And that's a match we've been waiting for a long time. And it's a match that's been on our radar for a while. They've teased it a few times over the years. We've had lots of interactions between Punk and Cody. Sometimes they are side by side. Sometimes it's just a little run in backstage. Sometimes it's an attaboy, a little pat on the ass, a little bit of support. And now, eventually, even though they have this camaraderie, this friendship, and this respect for one another, eventually, one of them is going to be champion and the other one is not, and they're going to be on the same show. And when that happens is when you're going to have that feud finally happen. So I thought this is something they could wait until next year's WrestleMania to do, but CM Punk and Cody Rhodes is a match I'd rather get here in the States. Over in Saudi Arabia, I'm fine with Oba and Roman. And then maybe you can do something with Sammy on the other end. But for a match like this, Cody and Punk, one that we've wanted to see all the way back to AEW. When Punk came into AEW, a match with Cody was one of the first matches I had on my mind. And we never got that. And I thought there was some underlying tension between the two of them prior to that. And now that they're both in WWE, the AEW, you know, they both had very interesting departures from AEW. They probably bonded over that. And now that they're in WWE, the company is in love with both of them. They're both at the top spots. You know, they're the Brett and Shawn, but almost like without the rivalry there. It's like they put all that behind them, and they are there to support one another and know that the two of them are responsible, you know, along with part-timer Roman, for really driving this ship. So I think there's that mutual respect, not only on camera, but behind the scenes between the two of them as well, to where any of that underlying heat doesn't really exist anymore. So now they are free and clear to work any kind of a program they want. And even though the mutual respect kind of angle can be nice, I think that this should be a program, is what I think. I don't know. I don't want to just see a one and done Cody Punk babyface match and then they don't interact again for another fucking year. I think if you're going to do Cody and Punk, this needs to be a thing. That's going to be multiple matches. Maybe the title's traded. Maybe it's not. I have no idea what the future is going to hold for Punk and this title run, how long exactly he is going to hold this thing. Him and Roman might be champion going into next year's WrestleMania. You know, I'm kind of hoping not, because Roman is so unbelievably part-time. But that could be what they do. It could be Punk. It could be, I mean, where we sit right now anyway, and granted WrestleMania is a long way away, but if WrestleMania was next week in Saudi Arabia or next month in Saudi Arabia, I would book Oba versus Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes versus Sami Zayn. And that's where Sami wins. So one of my thoughts, it's something that I've been very vocal about on the podcast, on social media, is that I feel like a CM Punk heel turn is probably coming. And a lot of fans thought that we might see the heel turn on Monday Night's Raw. We talked about that. Punk could show up, cost Cody the match against Sami, and turn heel, and then you got Cody and Punk. But why would they do that? Why would Punk just show up and screw Cody after they had been bros for a while? Now you got an opportunity to do that, because even though there's mutual respect here, there's going to be a lot of back and forth between these two on the mic, building up to SummerSlam contract signings, maybe even a little pushing and shoving or a pull apart or something. There's going to be some heat added to this, to where now Punk might have motivation to actually turn heel. And that's where I believe I said this on Monday prior to Punk even debuting. After Cody got attacked, I tweeted, I said, I don't think Punk turns heel in his title match with Sami Zayn tonight. He's coming back for the first time in 3 months. There's a loud baby out there. Coming back for the first time in 3 months and wrestling in Chicago. He's not going to turn heel in front of that crowd. They're not going to WrestleMania 17 CM Punk in Chicago. The heel turn will come later. The heel turn will come when he defends the title against Cody Rhodes. So kind of what I hope happens is that Punk turns heel against Cody and retains the title at SummerSlam. Now you got heel Punk versus Cody. It could go the other way. It could be Cody going heel and Punk staying the babyface, but I think Punk being a heel might be a little bit more fun, but then again, people are starting to turn on Cody too, a little bit. So I'm not sure which one of these two guys goes heel, but I think one of them needs to. Probably CM Punk, but I wouldn't rule out Cody. But CM Punk would be more fun. And then if that was the case and Punk was heel and he remained heel, and then Sammy, who's kind of been a heel, if Sammy can track himself back to being a fan favorite again or a babyface by next year's WrestleMania, now you got babyface Sammy beating heel CM Punk for the title in Saudi Arabia, and this time he's going to hold it for a hell of a lot more than 9 days. On the other end of that side of that coin, Obafemi, Roman Reigns for the title would work, but then if that's the case, where does that leave Cody? Where does that leave Gunther? Where does it leave Jacob and Breaker and all these other guys? And Brock if he's there. Still no word on the Brock-Oba match being a retirement match yet. That might be something that we don't know or learn until it happens, kind of like at WrestleMania. Brock surprised us with that retirement bullshit. Maybe this time he does it for real. Maybe after he loses to Oba, there's another ceremonial removal of the gear, but maybe he does one more thing to make it official. Maybe he takes his pants off, exposing them britches. Didn't John Cena walk away in his underwear? Or he almost did at Saturday Night's Main Event. So if Brock takes off his Jimmy Johns to reveal some tighty whities under there, some nice Hanes with the fucking waistband. I don't understand how people wear those things. Any y'all wear tighty whities? If you do, stop. It's weird. So maybe if Brock revealed his tighty whities and walked off, maybe that would be more official. See, last time he just took his gloves off. This time he took his pants, his britches, and his shoes off and took everything, walked out of here, with his man bits bulging out. So that, I think, could still happen. I was assuming that, Oba would demand Brock's career on the line, but it might not have to be a stipulation. It might be something where Brock, because Brock does things differently. Brock isn't going to be forced into retirement. He's going to decide that on his own. I almost like that scenario for him more than a stipulation. More than, his career is on the line. Now you're going in knowing it's Brock's retirement match. What they did at WrestleMania was pretty cool. That surprised me, and I thought maybe that really was his retirement match. But once he came back, I'm like, I think that retirement match is still yet to happen because what they did at WrestleMania makes no sense. If he doesn't intend on retiring, then what the fuck was he doing at WrestleMania taking that shit off? They wouldn't have planted that seed in our heads if it didn't mean it's not going to lead to a retirement. So maybe at SummerSlam, it's the same type of scenario. You do the Hell in the Cell match, Obafemi wins, and Brock realizes, I got beat in a match I've never lost. I don't think, right? Brock has never lost a Hell in the Cell, right? This is my match. It was really Undertaker's match, but it became my match because I dominated everyone in this match, including the man who created it twice. And so Brock's unbeatable in that structure. So going in there against Oba, if he gets put down, that might be Brock's realization that this is it. The gloves come off for real this time. That's what I think might happen. But we'll talk more about Oba and Brock another time. Back to SmackDown in terms of Cody and Punk. Like I said, I would love to see a Punk heel turn that leads to a fall and winter program between the two that might even involve a War Games match. You got to think that the Bloodline is going to be involved in War Games like always, but why do they have to be? Do they have to be? Because that's probably what they're going to do. They're going to do a Bloodline fucking War Games between Roman's crew and like Solo's crew or something like that, and that fucking sucks. Nobody wants to see that. I don't. Nobody gives a shit. Who cares? Who cares? Who fucking cares? I also don't like when War Games matches are just thrown together like last year. I was there at Petco Park. We watched War Games, but I didn't like either one of the matches. Just a conglomeration, a glob of fucking talent put together here, have this cage match. I like it more when, it's a rivalry, or you got two captains with their two teams, or their stakes, or something like that, like we've seen in previous years. And I think Team Cody versus Team Punk would be way more fun, especially when you see these guys trying to recruit their team members. Cody could get guys like Chad Gable. Punk could get guys like Dominic. I just think it could be fun. So Cody and Punk heading up teams going into Survivor Series War Games, I think would be great. But in order to do that, you got to start with a Punk heel turn and get this ball rolling on this rivalry so we don't find ourselves in a one and done situation. And then who knows, maybe at the Rumble or maybe later on this year, Cody wins the belt back from CM Punk. Maybe there's a double turn. Maybe both guys are going heel, but they're going to do them one at a time. Maybe Punk goes heel now, has a little heel run, and then you have another match with Cody, and it's a double turn. Cody wins the title, and Punk goes face. Something I don't know. Fuck, I'm just thinking out loud here. We will see. But Cody and Punk, at least for right now, is official for SummerSlam. You might notice Baron Corbin on your screen there. Baron Corbin returned on Friday night to WWE. We've been hearing about the possibility that he's going to return. We've heard that he's talked to WWE. We've heard that he's been wrapping up his independent obligations, including with MLW, and we've heard that we should expect to see him soon. He went out on social media, of course, and tried to deny it, and then, of course, all the little crazy little boys with a boat or up their ass about wrestling journalists. Nay, you guys were lying, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, they weren't. They have sources. This is what happened. I love when Sean Ross Sapp saves the receipts. It's the funniest thing. But exactly as we had heard, Baron Corbin returned. Now, I was expecting him to be the Frankenstein of Danhausen. Danhausen has got some corpse under a blanket there in his fucking lab. I don't know if they're just going to drop that angle or not, or if they're going to put somebody else under there. But that's who we thought Baron Corbin was going to be. So Baron Corbin shows up right in the middle of a Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes U.S. title match. By the way, Trick Williams was gifted by Lil Yachty a custom U.S. title that's all furry. It's like you emptied out the contents of your down pillow and just super glued it to the belt. So he's got this big furry championship now, and he's going to defend that against Mello. So they're in the middle of the match. This is the weirdest return, weirdest debut. They're in the middle of the match. Mello is going to the top rope, and then just out of nowhere, Baron Corbin shows up on the ring apron, and Mello's like, what the fuck? And he shoves Mello off, hits the ring, beats up both guys, hits them both with the end of days, and then picks up the furry U.S. title. And they're basically just thrusting Baron Corbin right into the U.S. title situation. And I don't know if that means he's going to win it or what, but, I feel like Baron might be coming back to put guys over. It's just to be a quality name because he is good in the ring, and he's a solid worker, and he always is able to do his job. And hopefully he'll have a little bit more of a stable run this time, because I was a little bit worried about him being Frankenstein after he'd already been the 9 other fucking gimmicks he had. He was, I guess Kane was Staples' manager. He was something like a Staples manager. What was he? He was like what Sean Morley was doing with Bischoff, or Constable Corbin, right? He was Constable Corbin, he was Bum-Ass Corbin, and then he was Happy Corbin, and he was something else. What else was he? I swear there's a 4th or 5th one in there, too. So he's all sorts of shit. Comes back looking the exact same. I don't know if they're going to bring back his Lone Wolf theme song. Everybody loved that theme song of Baron Corbin's back in the day. I'm just not a fan. It's such a great song. Like, it is this whiny-ass rock. I don't know what the genre of that rock is, but I don't like it. And so I never really cared about Baron Corbin's song any more than I cared about Broken Dreams by Drew McIntyre, but everybody loves these themes, and I'm so completely unaffected by these themes. They do nothing for me, but they're legendary. So we haven't heard, when Baron Corbin attacked on Friday, they didn't play any music for him, right? After the match, I don't think they did. So I don't know if they're going to bring back whatever the Lone Wolf song was that everybody loves. They're going to bring that back. I don't know. But I hope that Baron Corbin doesn't revert right back to his silliness. of having 100 fucking gimmicks in 3 months and just being used as a joke or whatever. So not being Danhausen's Frankenstein is actually a positive thing for Baron Corbin, because I don't really know what you do when you're that, especially when fans are going to recognize you as Baron Corbin. Because if Danhausen has the ability to bring back stars from the past, can you do Razor Ramon next? So that would have been weird either way. Now Baron Corbin is back. Welcome back. Always liked Baron Corbin. Always had his back, much like Sheamus. Always liked him. So anyway, Corbin is back. And then on Friday, in the main event segment of SmackDown, you've got Aldis out there with Gunther. Gunther, of course, wants a shot at the championship, but Aldis is like, well, it's too late now. It's Punk and Cody. But I'll tell you what, since you want these guys so bad, what I'll do is I'll give them both to you. On Saturday night's main event in a couple of weeks, it's going to be Gunther and Sami Zayn teaming up to face CM Punk and Cody Rhodes in a tag team match on Saturday night's main event. So this feels a little bit old school when you're putting, two opponents at a big pay-per-view in a tag team match. This is where shit goes down. This is where the beginning, I think the seed of the CM Punk heel turn could form. Mark my words, there is going to be some sort of miscommunication in that match between Punk and Cody. One of them is going to tag the other by mistake. And I don't mean tag like tag in. I mean tag with a fist or a kick or a drop kick or an elbow or something. Somebody's going to get an incidental contact. And that's usually in wrestling all it takes. It's a trope as old as the business itself. Dusty Rhodes turned babyface this way back in Florida in the 1970s. Same exact way. Partner hits him by accident, and then all of a sudden, all bets are off. The friendship, the partnership, and the alliance, all that is out the window. For some reason, wrestlers cannot fathom the idea of accidentally getting hit by your partner in a tag team match. Every time it happens, they freak the fuck out, as if that's something that would never happen. You got 4 guys fighting in a ring, fists are flying, you can catch an accidental one. You don't need to take it personally. But 100 out of 100 times, they take it personally. Rick Martel took it personally at WrestleMania 5. Tito came flying in with the flying forearm. Smash or axe, or not, who were they in the ring with? Tully and Arn. Tully or Arn ducks. Tito blasts Martel. Next thing you know, Martel's the fucking model. All because he took an accidental forearm to the face. So, something will happen something's going to happen between Gunther and Sami too, but I fully expect Cody and Punk to have some sort of a miscommunication, and that resulting in some pushing, some shoving, and add some heat to the match, and could, light the spark that's going to ignite the heel turn from CM Punk. That's the way I think that is going to go. So all this, after making that announcement, Gunther doesn't like that. Aldis turns his back, and Gunther attacks. The closing angle of the show is Gunther locking the sleeper on Nick Aldis, or the choke, while WWE officials attempt to pry him off of Nick Aldis. So what this is going to mean to us is that WWE is going through with the match that we thought we would get as soon as these two started interacting. It's going to be Gunther versus Nick Aldis at SummerSlam. Now, this is not official yet. The only matches official, I believe, are the 3 big ones we talked about. Punk, Cody, Rollins, Reigns, and Oba Brock. But Aldis and Gunther absolutely will be added to this card, and it could be a retirement match. It feels like they kind of dropped the whole retirement thing with Gunther since Brock clearly didn't want to do it. But Aldis has been wanting to get in the ring, but at the same time, it's, his general manager role is a pretty solid role in the company, and I think it's a better role for him than being on the roster. I think you have much better chance of getting released being a wrestler on the roster than being in the position that he has as general manager, somebody that's on TV featured every single week. Aldis becomes a wrestler, he's not going to be on TV every week. He might be enjoying some delicious catering in most of those weeks. So I'm wondering if this is Aldis's way of, because he's got to be 40 now, right? Maybe Aldis is going to have one final match, and he's going to get that final match in the WWE at a huge pay-per-view against one of WWE's top villains in Gunther. Hell of a way to go out. So I wouldn't be surprised, even though Aldis hasn't wrestled in WWE, if they somehow still make this a retirement match. You know, Gunther might say, oh, you want to get in the ring, huh? Well, let's put it all on the line. If I beat you, you never wrestle again. I'll stop your WWE in-ring career before it starts. Or maybe Gunther wants Aldis's general managerhood. I want your general managerhood. The reason I say that is because, have you ever seen the movie Blue Streak with Martin Lawrence? And at the very end, when he gets to Mexico, he's been trying to hide his identity. And then finally he goes, I'm a federale. And they're like, they're federale. He goes, yeah, I had to keep it on the down low or I'd lose my federale hood. Because you don't want to lose your federale hood. So maybe Gunther doesn't want Aldis's in-ring career on the line. Maybe Gunther wants Aldis's general managerhood on the line. And then Gunther wins, forcing Aldis to transition into a wrestler's role. That would mean we'd need a new GM on SmackDown, which I don't think we need because I think Aldis is great in that role. So unless Aldis has made some personal request to start wrestling and they're allowing him to, you know, I don't know what Aldis would offer to this roster. Aldis is a good worker. You know, he's a big guy. He can come back as Magnus if he wants. Wasn't that his name? Magnus? So he can do all that, sure. But I almost think like from a job security standpoint, I would prefer to be the GM. I would feel like I'm safer in that role. Where if he moves into a wrestler's role and he's out of the GM role, I mean, what will he do when his contract is up? You know, are they going to cut him? I don't know. So we will see. But it looks like it's going to be Gunther and Aldis. Gunther having a lot of these matches. You know, he worked with McAfee. And now he's going to be working with Nick Aldis at SummerSlam, and we will see. There's definitely going to be stakes here. And my belief is that either Aldis's career, in-ring career will be on the line, or his title as general manager will be on the line. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go to Gunther. It just means that Aldis will no longer be GM. But Aldis and Pierce, I like them as GMs. I like it when they interact with each other. I like it when they argue with each other. Sometimes you wonder if we're going to get a Pierce and Aldis match because both men used to be wrestlers. And we were thinking that we might get that at some point. Aldis and Pierce with some stakes on the line. But it's going to be Gunther and Aldis at SummerSlam, and I expect some sort of a stip to be added there. And other than that, the only other thing I'll mention on SmackDown is Jade Cargill's win over Alexa Bliss, and then they did the arm thing, which is really well done, forcing Charlotte to watch Alexa get her arm smashed by Jade Cargill. I thought that was a pretty good angle. Other than that, SmackDown really wasn't all that much to look at. Those were the big ones. Those are the big things that went down. Cody and Punk official for SummerSlam. Gunther attacking Aldis. Baron Corbin returning and making a claim for the U.S. title, and the Jade and Alexa segment and match I thought were the positives on SmackDown on Friday. Didn't really care much about the Solo and Jacob shit at all. Don't really care about any of that stuff, so we're not going to talk about it. Instead, we're going to move on to this past Wednesday's Dynamite, AEW Dynamite Beach Break. They were in Clearwater, Florida in an outdoor venue, which looked tremendous, by the way. I really loved the way that building looked, and I'm so glad that AEW does this. We talk about this every time they go to some sort of a unique venue. Sometimes the buildings are really small. They run that theater in Chicago that only holds like 900 people, but it looks great. It's kind of like the old Manhattan Center or where ECW used to run their shows, and those little banquet halls or whatever with the balcony and stuff. Like, those are cool looking venues, even if they're small. But this one was much bigger. This one held several thousand people, but they were outside in July in Florida. They were at Clearwater Beach. They were just feet away from the ocean, but it was fucking hot. I used to visit Florida a lot. Before I moved to California, I was either going to move to Florida or here. I was either going to go to Fort Lauderdale and move down to that area, or I was going to come to California, and I chose California. Primarily because of the heat. It is fucking hot as hell in Florida in the summer and all year long, really. And for them to have an outdoor show, even at night when the sun is going down, still had to be humid as hell. But the way the venue looked was so great. We need this in wrestling because, you know WWE, Raw, and SmackDown, and it has been this way for years. It reminds me of what McDonald's and Burger Kings look like now. McDonald's, Burger King, Any fast food chain, Taco Bell, what is it? It's the gray box. It's just the gray box. You know, back in the day, McDonald's had a look. Burger King had a look. Taco Bell had a look to them. You know, there were details put into how the buildings looked and how it's set up. And they bring back so many great memories of that old roof on the McDonald's with the thing and the fucking play sets and everything. And now every single building is the gray box. It's just so lazy, so uninspiring, so formulaic, so ticky-tacky, so modulated, you know, and the Raw and SmackDown sets have felt that way for years. They keep changing it up, but nothing really changes. It's always the same. WWE, all they do whenever they change up the Raw or SmackDown sets is just change how the screen looks. Sometimes it's big. Remember they had that huge one that looked like a half pipe? The screen went all the way up to the ceiling and then it came down and curved like you could drop in on it. Like Darby Allin and a skateboard could drop in on it and ride that shit to the ring. They've tried so many different configurations of the Tron, but it's always the same thing. It's the fucking screen, the entranceway, and the ring, and it's all just snapped together. Every single show looks the same. You can't tell what building you're in. Doesn't matter which arena you're in. Raw and SmackDown looks the same. One has blue lights, one has red lights. It sucks. They don't do pay-per-view sets anymore. We've talked about that over the years. You know, how the pay-per-view sets are a thing of the past. Going through that extra detail, the big skull for Deadly Game and the big swinging hooks for backlashes and all the other cool shit they did, the pumpkin at Halloween Havoc. You know, wrestling sets used to be so great, and now in WWE especially, it's just so unbelievably, you know, just formulaic. And I even mentioned, like, as the Raw and SmackDown sets evolved year after year, no matter where you are, Gorilla always looks the same. It's always the same shit on the walls, desks in the same position, clock in the same spot. These are just modular things that they just snap together. The entire Gorilla position is snapped together like Legos. And that's all fine, I guess, but it just translates into a really basic and, I guess, I'm trying to think of the word for ununique, but there's a uniqueness that's lacking in the shows where every single show they do looks the exact same. Sometimes they'll change it up when they have a sold out house. They go to the low profile screen so they can have the fans wrapped all the way around. That's fine. I don't mind simplistic sets. I don't need, you know, bells and whistles and shit hanging from the ceiling. I just need something, just the aesthetic to look a little bit different here and there. And WWE doesn't do this. You know, they run the same fucking arenas. Everything looks the same week after week. It's all the same. You don't formulate memories of, you know, this show looking different than this show, where Dynamites and Collisions do look different from one another. They change up the position of the announce table from time to time. They change up the position of the ramp from time to time. Sometimes, like at Beach Break, it's more of a theater setup where most of the fans are on one side looking in one direction, and the ramp is really short. Sometimes the ramp is really long. Sometimes the ramp connects to the ring. Sometimes it doesn't. You know, and all of these little variations and these differences that you run when you find smaller venues or unique venues or different venues. WWE just has an ongoing contract with every single NBA basketball arena in the country, and they just hit those on their loop. Round and round we go, over and over. You know, where AEW runs repeat buildings, but they run new buildings. They've never run this shit for Beach Break, wherever this was in Clearwater, Florida, and it looked awesome. They ran a show after a fucking baseball game in Minnesota on Saturday night. So that is one of the best things that they do, is being able to present television or TV or even pay-per-view sometimes from different, unique-looking venues. One thing we don't have to worry about in AEW is every single motherfucking one of their shows looking the exact same, being set up the exact same, camera angles the exact same, the way they do cuts, the way they advertise things, the way announcers deliver information to you. Everything is the fucking same on Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. It's all the same. It's all the same, just different lights on each show. That's it. Where AEW does it much better. They have different looking stuff, and the shows have a more variety to how they feel when you see them. And this is one of the coolest ones they've done. They've done a lot of cool, like I like Daly's Place. I thought Daly's Place was a cool venue, but they ran that for so long during COVID, we kind of got over it. But this Beach Break venue was tremendous. Like I said, it looked hot as hell, but I really loved the venue and the setup and the way the show looked. It was very pleasing to the eye, basically, but it was probably not pleasing to the body because it was hot as hell. Jericho and Tommaso Ciampa, who opened the show, looked like they were dying out there. But the big news, of course, was the main event. The main event was going to be Kenny Omega challenging MJF. Now, Kenny Omega just got a world championship shot at the pay-per-view Dynasty, right? And fell short. And in the build-up to this match, backstage, in the ring, Kenny Omega kept dropping the same word over and over. Redemption. Looking for his redemption. So we all thought that Kenny versus MJF was going to be a match at Redemption, which is coming up on July 26th in 2 weeks in Montreal at the Bell Center in Canada, where Kenny lives, or where Kenny is from, excuse me. Although it's Winnipeg. Still Canada. Would have been a good spot for him to have that match and maybe win. So that's what we thought was going to happen. And then they set it up the previous week where MJF, says, I'll put the title on the line. Or maybe Kenny challenged for Beach Break. I forgot. But basically the challenge was laid down for Beach Break instead of Redemption. And MJF agrees on the condition that Kenny Omega has the same stipulation that Hangman Page and Cody Rhodes had, and that if he loses, he can never challenge for the AEW World Championship again. This got the Elite concerned. This got Ospreay concerned. Both Ospreay and Kenny are concerned with each other. Kenny doesn't like Ospreay's alliance with the Death Riders. Ospreay thinks Kenny could be making a mistake with MJF, and he just wants to make sure that he's sure about it. And that's when Kenny went out, I think, the previous week and accepted the challenge, leading us to this match here. Now, prior to this, Ospreay and MJF had a really heated exchange outside. You know what this reminded me of? It reminded me of In Your House, It's Time. They were also in Florida. That was the big Brett versus Sid match. And prior to the show, I think it was on the free-for-all, Brett and Sean got into it a little bit outside with like Michael Hayes. They kind of got in each other's face, I think, and this Ospreay and MJF confrontation that was also outside kind of reminded me of that a little bit. So they've been teasing for All In the possibility of Kenny and MJF, Ospreay and MJF, and some of us think it could actually be a triple threat, Kenny, Ospreay, and MJF. We're still not sure about that. But now we are here, Beach Break, it's time for the main event, and I loved Justin Roberts' introduction for Kenny Omega. He came out to Battle Cry. Great setup here. It felt big, and then the match was amazing. The match was really fun. Now, it wasn't as epic and long as like Swerve and Ospreay, but for a TV match with commercials and shit, it was still very good. They brawled all over the place. The action was strong. They were so hot and sweaty because it was fucking 100 degrees out there. And the match was awesome. They were fucking bumping off the lifeguard stand into the sand and shit, in the set area, and they were all over the place. And basically the finish sees MJF going for his normal tricks. Referee, I believe, is distracted. MJF goes into his tights to pull out the diamond ring. He puts it on his finger, and he's getting ready to nail MJF, and that's when Will Ospreay shows up. He starts running down the aisleway, goes behind MJF, takes the ring off of him, which then allows, I think, Omega to take down MJF, and the referee is still distracted, and Omega has the belt, and he's trying to decide if he's going to hit MJF or not. He's got an opportunity here because I think it was Remsburg who was the ref, I think. But I think he might be talking to Ospreay or something, and his back is turned, and ultimately Kenny decides not to use the belt, throws the belt down. He's immediately then low blowed by MJF, who picks the belt up and then blasts Kenny Omega in the face with it. And Kenny goes down right as the referee turns around, goes down to cover one, and Kenny kicks out at one. I love the kickouts at one. Now, a lot of fans complain about them. I'll meet the fans halfway on the kick out at one stuff. First of all, it doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me at all. I think when you overanalyze that, you're trying too hard to make wrestling real, and it's just not. Sorry. However, I think it should be limited to Kenny until he retires. Ospreay was doing it, and some other guys have done it. Kenny does it the best. Kenny, I believe, was the originator of it. And I love his kickouts, too. I love the way, Kenny doesn't kick out normally like with the legs. He kind of comes up with the arms, and the way he kind of came out of that and hulked up, is so amazing. And I love the kickouts at 1, but I think it should be reserved for Kenny Omega until his career is over, and then someone else can pick it back up. But I don't think it needs to be spammed. Kickouts at 1 don't bother me, but you can't see them 3 times in every pay-per-view. It can't turn into that. So I think that's one thing when it comes to these over-the-top matches and these spectacular near falls and all of this drama. I'm always defending it. I think fans who get uppity about a steak that's too juicy are just trying too hard to be miserable. But when it comes to this stuff, I do think it's something that really needs to be, don't turn it into a super kick. Don't turn it into another move that used to be special that now isn't anymore because it's done all the time. And that has happened to a lot of moves and stuff. I'm not going to lie about that. That does. But when it comes to the kickouts at 1, I think it should be reserved for Kenny. So when he kicked out at 1 and the fans' reaction, and the greatest was Max leaning up against the ropes going, and his jaw and lips were jiggling. That was so fucking funny. And Kenny Omega recovers to blast Maxwell with 3 stiff-looking V-triggers right into the corner. Just takes his head off with 1, hits the ropes again, hits him with another one. The third one, probably the most emphatic, looked like it caught MJF right in the face, and the great fucking knee slap that goes with it. It all looks so good. 3, well, I guess it wasn't were they V-triggers? There were 3 running knee strikes, V-triggers, whatever they are, to the face of MJF. Kenny then picks him up, one-winged angel, down he goes, covers him, and wins the AEW World Championship on Dynamite Beach Break, not Redemption. And Kenny is the new AEW World Heavyweight Champion. What a moment. Fans loved it. I loved it. Granted, I'm a little confused because I thought they would save this for Redemption. What the hell is going on here? They had the match graphic all ready to go. They put it up there, Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay at All In. And Excalibur says, as it stands now, this is the match. Acknowledging that there could be some more things happening because we have a pay-per-view coming up in like a couple of weeks. Redemption is coming up. This is where we thought the match was going to happen. So lots of speculation and curiosity as to why Kenny won here and not at Redemption. A lot of fans, like I was, when I was on vacation, I was reading the tweets and the things you guys were sending to me. A lot of people were like, well, they must have done this because MJF's knee is injured. He must be going off to get his knee worked on. I mean, maybe, but he worked fine. He's been working fine. If he does have a knee injury, he's working through it. And if he does have a knee injury, hypothetically, that needs surgery, he seems to be working on it just fine. Are you really going to want to miss the biggest pay-per-view of the year? If you can work through the injury and get the surgery done later, you're going to work through that injury. So I don't really believe this belief amongst the fans that MJF is now going to leave to go get a knee procedure. He might. I just feel like that is far-fetched because if he was able to work that match with Kenny, why can't he just work through it until All In? He can obviously work. He's healthy enough to not only be cleared, but work a good match. And I mean, he was selling the leg, limping around on it. Could all be a work. The whole injury could be non-existent for all we know. From what we understand, he hyperextended his knee a while back, and he's been working through that. Rhea Ripley, we'll talk about her in a minute. She's got a partially torn meniscus, and she's champion right now. So MJF could very well have an injured knee. I just don't buy it. If this is a different time of the year, then sure. But with All In coming up and MJF putting all this work in that he's put in, how is he going to be left off of that card? And maybe he's got a movie coming up. I have no idea what's going on or why he dropped the title, because he already did drop the title once before on TV back in April. And wasn't that one a beach show too? He loves dropping the belts at beach shows. Was it Spring Break or something like that he dropped the title to Darby? That was on a Dynamite, right? And then he won the title back from Darby at Double or Nothing. So here he drops it again to Kenny. And so now when you're looking at the possibilities for the All-In main event, doing MJF and Ospreay now would feel weird. Like if MJF were to win the belt back from Kenny at Redemption, just then to pass it to Ospreay at All In. Like, what the fuck did Kenny even win the title for then? So I feel like Kenny and Ospreay is going to be the match we're going to get. And it is possible that MJF could be factored into that as a triple threat. However, I feel like Tony Khan wants Ospreay and Omega. He wants that Wrestle Kingdom level main event for All In. I think he wants that every year. And it's in London. Kenny's the big bout machine. And I think there's a lot of story that can be told there between Kenny and Will Ospreay because of Ospreay's alliance with the Death Riders and them already teasing the issues that Kenny has with that. So, you know, on Collision last night, Moxley, after the Death Riders win in like an 8-man tag, he got on the mic and said it's the Death Riders versus the world. So I feel like Ospreay is going to have the backup of the Death Riders, and Kenny is going to think, oh, you're going to use that as an advantage, and that's going to create some issues between the two of them, build some heat for the match. But I still wonder about MJF. And since Ospreay essentially costed MJF the match by taking that diamond ring off of his finger, I'm wondering if what happens on Wednesday is that MJF winds up challenging Will Ospreay for his number one contender spot at All In. And they do that match at Redemption. That's what I think might happen. I think it might be MJF versus Ospreay for the number one contender spot at Redemption. And then maybe they even do something where MJF wins. Maybe MJF wins, cheats, does something super dastardly to win. But then Tony Khan's like, nah, it ain't going to be like that. It's going to be a triple threat now. Ospreay's not losing his opportunity because you won like that. You know, but then again, you got the Death Riders, you know, they're backing Ospreay up. So I don't know what MJF would be able to do to cheat to beat Ospreay when he's got the backup of the Death Riders that could come out and, you know, thwart any plan by MJF or any heel tactic or cheating or anything like that. So I feel like that could be where they go. But in terms of MJF, I don't know what it means for him. I have a really hard time believing that the reason he lost, because that was the opinion that everybody immediately went to. Oh, his knee must be fucked up. I'm like, didn't you watch him wrestle? He looked fine. His knee didn't look that fucked up. Didn't look like it needed to be dealt with immediately. If he's working through an injury, I'm going to want to work through All In and be like, yo, Tony, I don't want to miss the All In payday. I want to work that show. I'll get my surgery on fucking September. You know, I'm fine. You clearly saw I can work on this knee. So let me see this through. Let me get on the other side of All In, and then we'll get the work done or whatever. And that's even assuming there's even an injury there. But whatever's going on with his knee, whether there's an injury or there's not an injury, he's working on it. So why can't he just continue to work on it? Why would you want to go get knee surgery during your hottest? This is the WrestleMania season. So you're always going to want to work through that. So I am just not of the belief, at least right now, that the reason MJF lost is because of his knee. I don't believe that. I think the reason he lost is maybe because Tony wants Kenny and Ospreay. But if that's the case, that's fine with me. I just hope that it doesn't leave MJF out in the cold because he deserves a lot of praise for the work that he's done in carrying the company on his back. And more or less, I mean, he's the champ. But the numbers are good. Attendance and ratings are good with MJF on top. And, you know, he's a cornerstone of that company. So whether if he works his way into the main event at All In, great, but then you kind of lose that Omega Ospreay one-on-one epic that I think Tony Khan kind of wants. So let me know what you guys think in the chat about that situation and what you think will happen there between those guys, because I'm curious. I'm curious what all this means. I'm curious what it means for Redemption. We only have one match listed so far for Redemption, and it's going to be Mercedes Moné versus, it's going to be Tekla defending her AEW Women's title against Willow Nightingale, who also returned on Dynamite in that Casino Gauntlet. And she beat all those women and earned an opportunity to face Tekla at Redemption for the championship. And now there has been some talk that it's not going to be Tekla and Mercedes. The match that I want. Might be hard to do that. They're both heels. But I want that. I think that would just be incredible between those two. The back and forth and the chemistry in the match. I'm intrigued by a match like that. But I might not be getting that I think Willow might legitimately beat Tekla for the title at Redemption and face Mercedes Moné at All In for the championship, and Mercedes will beat her. Because there has now been some chatter that the Willow Nightingale injury that forced her to forfeit the TBS title was bullshit. Because she returned the week after they crowned the new TBS champion. Sheeta won the TBS title right here in San Diego, like the day before I left on vacation. So now Willow is taken out of the TBS title picture. She returns right after they crown the new champion, now wins the gauntlet, becomes number one contender. That's sus. Is that what the kids say today? It's sus. It's sus, y'all. So I'm starting to think that the whole thing was BS. They didn't want Willow to drop the TBS title only to win the world title. They want to keep her strong, so they create an injury to where she has to forfeit the title so she doesn't have to lose. Now she comes back, wins this gauntlet, gets a title match, and will probably win it. So now I'm starting to change my tune on the match that we're going to get. I still want Tekla and Mercedes just because I think it will be fun. But Willow and Mercedes, there might be more of a story there because they have TBS title history. Like Mercedes won. Who beat Mercedes for the TBS title? Was it Willow? Did Willow beat Mercedes for the TBS title? Somebody did because Mercedes lost the TBS title. And Willow's been TBS title or champion a couple times, right? I'm so bad with title histories in AEW. I need to be better at that. But if Willow beat Mercedes for the TBS title, then I can definitely see Mercedes beating Willow for the title. AEW TV. I love when I try to find this stuff out like in real time. There we go. Yeah, it looks like, yeah. Willow beat her in December, held the title until May, and then forfeited. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense then, because that means Willow beat Mercedes. So Mercedes, oh yeah, and then Willow held it earlier. Yeah, so she's a two-time TBS title holder. No, I guess, okay, no, Mercedes beat Willow for it. That's right. So Mercedes beat Willow for the title, and then Willow beat her back for it. Like a year later, right? Yeah, like over a year later. Yeah, so Mercedes won the title from Willow in May of 2024 and then dropped it back to Willow in December of 2025. And Willow held it all the way up until she forfeited the championship. And now it's going to be Willow and Mercedes rekindling this rivalry now for the world title. So that's starting to make a lot more sense to me than Tekla, even though I love with every square inch of my beating fucking heart, Tekla. She is tremendous in every goddamn fucking category to me. She is tailor-made for this business. She's tremendous. I do not want to see her lose the championship, but I think she probably will. I think she probably will because I can see AEW wanting Mercedes and Willow, but I think Tekla and Mercedes would be so fun. To me, that would be more fun than Willow and Mercedes, but can't have everything. We'll see how it goes. Also, on Dynamite this past Wednesday, Kyle Fletcher defeated Konosuke Takeshita to win the International Championship. So we had another title change, two big title changes on Wednesday. That match wasn't that surprising because Takeshita is off to Japan now to work the G1. I think that's kicked off or it's about to kick off. But after the match, it was kind of cool. Mick Foley was in town, so Foley was out there. He came in to interview Kyle Fletcher. He got dissed a little bit by Don Callis, and Foley had some shoes on that had like a picture of his dogs on his. He had like a Bub and Tito on his feet. One dog was passed away, one was alive. And he said that the inner workings of Don Callis's rectum is going to become very familiar with one of them dogs if he ever disrespected him again. So more teasing that Foley could at some point get physical in there. So it was good to see him out there. Later on, Darby Allin sneaks up behind in the backstage area. He sneaks up behind Kevin Knight, Brian Cage, and Jake Doyle. Knight was out in the ring too with Fletcher cutting a promo. And Darby sneaks up on the three of them backstage, attacks, but then they overpower Darby. And then I think Brian Cage says, get the skateboard, hit him with the skateboard. Cage picks up the skateboard, or maybe Doyle does, and the skateboard explodes. It blows up, just blowed up right in his face. And then camera pans over to Andrade because they said, you did it. And Andrade's standing there with like a remote control. And he goes, how you know? So babyface Andrade is so wonderful. I really enjoy babyface Andrade. How you know? I mean, the how you know was before his WWE run. I just love that. Like he said, how you know, they didn't do anything with it, but we all loved it. Then he went to WWE, comes back, and now all of a sudden they're making how you know a thing. But anyway, Andrade fucking rules. Also, it should be noted that they ran a little video on Wednesday showing Jungle Jack Perry officially re-signing with AEW. His contract was coming up. We were hearing reports that he had not re-signed. There was some speculation that he would go to WWE. Nobody really believed that. And I've talked about Perry going to WWE a few times and the potential there and like what would happen between him and CM Punk. Even earlier on when I mentioned, like a War Games match with Team Cody and Team Punk. What if Jack Perry was the fifth man for one of those teams? What if Cody brought him out as his fifth member? With all that bad blood, or what if CM Punk brought him out and say, hey, we used to be enemies, we're friends now. And I hated the idea of Jack Perry in WWE because one thing that I knew that WWE would beat over our heads is the fact that Luke Perry is his dad. And every time that Jack Perry came down to the ring or got in the ring to wrestle, Corey Graves and Michael Cole would mention that fact 41,000 times per match to us, and I just wasn't going to be able to handle that. Nobody really believed he was leaving anyway. It was so funny. Like I put on Twitter, super happy Jack is staying put. Don't think he was really a fit in WWE. And I like 5 people go, he was never going anywhere. Really? We all read the same internet. You have access to no more information than I do. We all know that he was probably going to stay. The fact that people had to take the time to tweet that out, it just reminds me of Forrest Gump when Lieutenant Dan shows up at the fish and shrimp boat and Forrest jumps off the boat to swim to him. And Lieutenant Dan's like, I thought I'd try out my sea legs. And Gump goes, well, I ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan. And Lieutenant Dan just goes, yes, I know that. So whenever these people, he was never going anywhere. Yes, I know that. Jesus fucking Christ. Thanks for the education. God damn, it cracks me up how people are on the internet and then think that we don't read the same shit they read. Anyway, we all knew that he probably wasn't jumping to WWE, but we weren't going to know that for sure until he re-signed with AEW. That's how it works. So they ran a big video of Jack Perry, and his intentions to become a world champion, and he's a pillar in AEW, and he wants to stay that way, and it's his home, and all that shit, right? And then they cut to a little backstage office where Jack Perry, puts pen to paper and officially re-signs with AEW, with Tony Khan sitting right there. They shake hands, they hug, and I think that's the right move for Jack Perry. He has officially re-signed with AEW. And good for him. I'm glad that he's sticking around there because I feel like that's just the best place for him, in my opinion. So from Jungle Boy to Scapegoat and everything in between, hopefully Jack Perry can have a little bit more meaningful of a run. All right, we're going to move on to our next order of business in a second. Cheers. By the way, this water I bought in Hawaii. I bought this at the airport before I boarded because I was worried about being thirsty. On my way there, I was thirsty. I didn't have water. I was annoyed. So I'm like, I'm going to get a bottle of water. $6, by the way. This is a $6 bottle of water. So I shoved it in my backpack and then I never drank it on the plane. And when I got home, I'm like, oh, I still have this water. So I threw it in the fridge and I'm like, you know what? I spent $6 on this water, so I'm going to drink it. But this is Hawaiian Dasani. So cheers. All right. Staying with... We might run a little bit past 2 hours here on this podcast because I haven't even gotten into the wrestling news yet. But staying on the subject of AEW, last night we had Collision. And Hangman Adam Page was just pre-announced to return on Collision. We thought he might show up on Wednesday in the title match. We thought he might show up at Redemption to get involved in another title match or to look for revenge on MJF or something like that. But instead, he just, in an advertised appearance, shows up on Collision with that hair cut like Kurt Hennig at SummerSlam 91. He looks much better when it's a little longer. He's a much more handsome devil when it's a little bit longer. And basically just says, he gets on the mic and says that he's going to keep his word He intends on keeping his word and never challenging for the world title again, but he intends to go after all the other titles. He goes, there's miles and miles of empty track, which is not really true. There's contenders for every championship, but he's eyeballing the TNT. He's eyeballing the international title. He's eyeballing the national title and the Continental title. So he brings up Moxley. He brings up Kevin Knight. He brings up Kyle Fletcher. And who else did I say? Who the fuck is the national champion? I don't know who the national champion is. It was Perry. Somebody beat Perry for it. Who the fuck is the national champion? I don't know. I'll just wait for the chat. Somebody tell me who the national champion is. I'm not moving. I'm not going any further until you tell me. Just waiting. Who's the national champion? I mean, I could look it up. Mark Davis. Thank you. I knew it was. That's right. Mark Davis. Thank you, Ruther. Thank you, Ruther. Coming through. Mark Davis. Boy, we're about to talk about Sheamus in a minute. That's a match I want to see. Mark Davis and Sheamus. Holy shit. So yeah, Mark Davis is the champ. So basically Hangman is saying he's going to keep his word. He's not going to challenge for the world title, but he's going to target the other championships. Also mentioned what he's been up to since he's been gone. He's been gardening. He's been planting seeds. There's something very therapeutic about planting seeds. He's got great flowers in his garden. I love that. Because he said he lives in Greensboro. Lives in a couple acres out in Greensboro, North Carolina. Which, believe me, you don't want to be living in the city limits of Greensboro. The place is a fucking dump. But outside of the city limits, there's probably some really nice land out there. And some really good weather. I'm glad that he's out there enjoying life in my old home state of North Carolina. Shout out to NC. So Hangman is back, and that was, pretty much it. Just talked about his gardening, his green thumb, and all the championships that he intends on going after. And it doesn't look like he has an immediate program in front of him, at least not yet. But we will see, if what he does on Dynamite and if he shows up at Redemption or does anything there. We will have to see. He might get a title shot of some kind at Redemption, just not for the world title. At some point, though, they will have to undo that with him. Because they would have undone it with Cody, but Cody left. So Hangman is the only one who's there that actually has to, deal with the stipulation because Cody left and Omega won. So it's just Hangman who has to deal with this. And at some point they will have to undo it. And it might be a Hangman heel turn because right now I'm a man of my word. I think if Hangman ever does win the AEW world title again, he's got to win it as a heel because it's got to be a heel that goes against that word, where a babyface might have too much pride, to go up against it unless some sort of a situation comes around, like Randy Savage back in 91, he retired at WrestleMania 7, but then they created a story for him and the fans got him reinstated by writing letters and cards and shit like that. So they could go that direction too, or they could just have Tony Khan just come out and say, look, motherfuckers, I'm the boss. I might be 98 goddamn pounds, but I'm the fucking boss here. And Hangman Page, this stipulation no longer exists. Hangman, you're the number one contender. You're getting the shot at whatever the fuck. So eventually that will have to be undone. Last night, there was a tremendous match. Ring of Honor Championship match. Go watch it if you haven't. Bandito defending and retaining against Katsuyori Shibata. That was really great. Loved that one. Hikaru Shida retained the TBS title, beating Harley Cameron last night. Like I said, Moxley got on the mic after a big 8-man win by the Death Riders and said something to the effect of, it's the Death Riders versus the world. And it's chatter like that. It's talk like that makes me wonder if that's going to, at some point, inevitably, cause an issue between or generate some heat for Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega. Because Ospreay is still Mr. Babyface guy who just wants to face his friend in Wembley, but he's got the backup of this very, very dangerous group, that Kenny is not going to trust. It might come down to where Kenny's like, look, I trust you. I don't trust them. And that could create some problems. So I think the story will be Ospreay's alliance with the Death Riders is going to, probably play a big role, factor in the angle or the match with Kenny and Ospreay in Wembley, provided that is the match we are getting. We had Brian Cage got a win over Zachary Wentz last night, and Darby Allin defeated Trent Beretta in the main event. Also, I don't know if you saw it, look it up on Twitter or YouTube or something, but the Bang Bang Gang, it's so great to see Jay White back. I love Jay White. I've always liked him. I've always thought he was super fun on the mic, and I loved the Bang Bang Gang. I'm so glad that they're all back in full force. Even Juice was gone for a time there, and one of the Ass Boys was hurt, so the Bang Bang Gang has been bang bang absent for so long, and now they're back like full strength. They're all fun as hell. So much charisma bubbling out of those 4 motherfuckers, or I guess 5, because you have what's his face, a little guy. What's Ace Austin, right? So you got Ace, and you got Juice, and you got the Ass Boys, and you got Jay White. They're tremendous. One of my favorite factions in all of pro wrestling. I love them. And they went and visited a dog shelter as a way to troll Finley and Connors. They were holding up, his name's Finley. He's dirty and he licks his butt, but he needs to be adopted. So they basically worked with a dog shelter to help get a couple of dogs adopted that they named Finley and Connors. The whole thing was pretty fucking funny. And that's what we got out of Collision last night. Oh, cool, Zane. I'm going to read these super chats here in just a minute. We are almost done with our news, but now we got to get into news. It's time to transition into news. This podcast is going to go a little bit longer than 2 hours. We're probably going to go about 2:20. We're probably going to go for about another 30 minutes here. And then we will take a break for only 30 minutes and regroup to do our watch along. So it's going to be a quick turnaround here tonight. Hope you guys are ready. Anyway, let's talk about Sheamus. So I think I was on day 1 of my Hawaiian vacation, and I learned that Sheamus will be leaving the WWE when his contract expires. Sounds like this is a situation very similar to New Day, where he was offered a new deal, a restructuring, probably a pay cut, and declined to take it. And I think the same thing happened with the New Day, although with New Day, they're not waiting. New Day was released, right? So they've got a 90-day, but Sheamus is going to leave when his contract was up. So I think New Day was going to leave when their contracts were up, but they secured a release ahead of time. I think that's what happened there. That's why we have to wait 90 days for them. But Sheamus, we're not going to have to wait. Now, we don't know when his contract is up, but the minute it is up, he is free and clear to go anywhere he wants. So here's what Fightful Select had to say about Sheamus' departure this week, and I quote, Sheamus rejected a restructured contract extension. WrestleVotes Radio on Fightful Select learned that an unnamed high-level member of the WWE office went to TKO and went to bat for Sheamus. That individual dove into the value that Sheamus brings to the company that stretches beyond his in-ring contributions. A person close to Sheamus believes he would welcome the idea of competing for AEW, even if it is on a short-term basis, if the right situation presented itself. So Sheamus, after 16 years, how long was he in WWE? He's been there for a long time. He was one of the first people I ever talked about when I started doing my YouTube videos in 2010. Because at the time, it was him and Jack Swagger were like kind of the new faces, and the fans were kind of rejecting him. And I remember saying, like, you guys just say you're tired of the same old shit. Here's some different guys. What the fuck you bitching about? Now, they were right about Swagger, but they were wrong about Sheamus. Sheamus has always been great. Maybe he had a little bit too much too quick, sure, but he was always a solid hand, always a good worker, loved the style that he worked. And all of the years, in the company, he's gone through periods of interest and fans don't care. And he's had some great tag teams. The Bar is one of my all-time favorite tag teams in WWE history. And he had a good run there. And I'm sad to see him go. Sheamus is, now in his 40s, but I do believe that there are places that we can see him again, and I believe that we will. Now, I'm not of the belief that AEW, I've talked about this many times over the years, I don't believe that they should do what TNA did and just hire everybody the WWE casts off, but there are some no fucking brainers, guys. And if you have the opportunity to pick up the New Day and Sheamus, you pick up the New Day and Sheamus. Don't worry about them being ex-WWE guys. That's talent you want. Where who else was released recently? There might be some guys to where I don't think they should really go to AEW. But New Day, Motor City Machine Guns, and Sheamus would be really fun to see in AEW. Sheamus could also go to New Japan. Now, it sucks he's not going to be able to make it for the G1, but you could bring him to AEW and put him in the Continental. But Sheamus in New Japan, I wouldn't want to see him sign a contract there. like a multi-year deal or anything like that, because I think Sheamus has a window now. I mean, he's in his 40s, and, if he's going to get some more bangers out, he doesn't want to be tied too closely to one company, but AEW and New Japan already have a working agreement. So Sheamus can sign with AEW and still probably work in New Japan. Takeshita's going over there. So I think he should come in and be like a Takeshita situation. We're right off the top of my head. You think of Sheamus versus Mark Davis, Sheamus versus Jake Doyle, maybe even a Brian Cage. There are some people in AEW that right off the top of my head, I think there could be some fun matches with Sheamus. And I think he's changed his social media. I don't know what he's going to be called. I know you can't trademark a first name, but I still also don't think that Sheamus can use Sheamus, because I don't think Sheamus is his real name, correct? What's his fucking name? Stephen Fairley. So I don't know what he's going to go by. And his social media was also changed to something, but now I can't find it. What did he change it to? He is now S. Fairley. So he might be he might just be going by Fairley or something, or maybe he's just going by Steven or Fairley, or I think he used to be Sheamus. What was it? He had a last name when he first kind of started, Sheamus O'Shaughnessy or something like that, right? It might be something like that, but he'll have a new name, but he'll probably maintain most the same look. And I think he'd be fun in AEW. So, he's one guy that I'm saying, yeah, I would like, as a fan, it would be fun to see him in AEW. That's not the case with everybody. Not everybody WWE releases, I'm like, I want to see him in AEW. And the same goes for AEW. When they release people, I don't automatically want to see them in WWE. Some people I do, but some people I don't. But Sheamus is one of those guys. He's a former world champion, multi-time, right? I think there's so much fun he could have in AEW, and he's there he's got friends. Edge is there. They're homies. The whole reason Edge got back in the ring at all is because of Sheamus, because they went mountain biking together, and Edge ate shit. And when he got up and realized that he wasn't hurt, he's like, well, if I can take that bump, I can take bumps in the ring. Sheamus, he's got the gym and he works out with people. Sheamus is very well liked and respected. And you know who else is there? Claudio. Claudio's there. The bar. Maybe they can be what's a synonym for bar? Rail. maybe they can be a rail, or the railing. They're the railing. Out there railing bitches. I don't know. I'm just making things up. But there's some people there that I would like to see Sheamus, number one, have a match with, and number two, interact with. And help me out. Wasn't Sheamus Edge's last match? Edge worked a final match on SmackDown before leaving. I think it was against Sheamus, right? Might have been. But anyway, Sheamus in AEW, I would like to see that. Sheamus in New Japan, I would like to see that. Sheamus in TNA? No. Sheamus in MLW? Maybe. But AEW New Japan, right at the top of TNA, MLW, or anywhere in Mexico, I'm not feeling that. AEW New Japan, definitely feeling that. So all the best to Stephen Fairley, wherever he goes. I always liked him. Thought he was a solid worker. Wish him the best. Hope he closes out his career in a really strong way. All the best to Sheamus and his future endeavors. What's next on my news list? Oh, SummerSlam attendance ain't going well. Of course, SummerSlam is coming to Minneapolis, Minnesota, US Bank Stadium in just a couple of weeks. And this is a football stadium. This is a 75,000 or 70,000 seat football stadium where the Minnesota Vikings play their regular season games. This is a big ass place. Well, the attendance is not doing well. As a matter of fact, I have it pulled up. This was as of July 9th from WrestleTix on Twitter. As you see here, they have only distributed 22,000 tickets for SummerSlam Saturday. SummerSlam Sunday has about 1,000 more. They're about 23,000 for Sunday, 22,000 for Saturday. Look at the current setup. The total number of seats, total capacity is 72,000. They only have it set up for 29. Less than half of that, about 40% of what the building can hold is what they have it set up for. Now, granted, same thing with WrestleMania. They were experiencing some sluggish ticket sales, but when it was all said and done, they had 50,000 people there on both nights. That's good. But this looks like it's going to be hard to get to 50, and I think they will reach capacity. We're talking 7,000 tickets in the next couple of weeks. I definitely think they can probably do that, and there will be close to 30,000 in these buildings, but that's only 30,000 in a 70,000-seat arena. All in will absolutely outdraw, at least attendance-wise, SummerSlam. You can point to all the bullshit you want. Well, the tickets are cheaper. They put them half off. Who fucking cares? I miss the days of WWE caring about attendance. When they were getting their asses kicked in 1997 by WCW, they still put 50 or 60,000 people in the Alamo Dome for Royal Rumble because they papered the whole fucking thing. They gave away thousands of seats. There's nothing wrong with that. I miss when wrestling companies gave a shit about having full buildings. You know, and now the fans, these fucking goalpost movers, you know, well, AEW have cheaper ticket prices. Yeah, we know that. That's why their attendance is better, because WWE and the corporate cocks that own them, you know, are pricing out families and fans at a rapid pace. And you're noticing the attendance figures starting to fall on a lot of these shows because it's just too damn expensive. It's too much of a hassle. Some fans might be looking at a seat for SummerSlam and going, $1,500? What am I going to do when the 38 ESPN commercials are airing? Fucking pick my ass and smell my turds? I'll just watch it at home. Everybody's probably saying that, you know, because why go to this shit? Why spend this kind of money, you know, for 5 matches that's going to last 4 hours because you have 3 hours of commercials? You know, what's the point of that? Plus the product, you know, I think the matches on the marquee look great for SummerSlam. Punk Cody, Oba Brock, Rollins Reigns. I'm excited for all 3 of those matches. You know, but that doesn't change the fact that WWE has experienced a lot of issues with their creative and whatnot, and fan interest is starting to sour. Now, I've said that before, you know, when you've got people like Nick Khan coming out and being like, we don't listen to the fans. You know, we don't need to. I'm like, these idiots don't understand that when shit starts going bad, it takes a while for the ratings and the attendance to start reflecting that. Usually, we saw this in WCW back in the day, you know, when things started to take a decline in WCW around late 98 and all of 99, you know, they were still pumping out some pretty solid numbers. They were losing to WWE, but their attendances were still good. Their ratings was still good. And it was because a lot of that stuff is, you know, it takes a while for that to taper off. You know, if you start shitting the bed, you know, the fans, you know, still have tickets pre-purchased for shows months in advance. You know, you might have already tickets purchased for, you know, a live event in late August or something, you know, but between now and then, WWE starts doing shitty things. And so it just takes a while for these figures to start catching up to the product that you're putting forth. And Nick Khan with his, we don't listen to fans. And then he brings up 15-year-old tweets to try to prove a point at town halls. He's a moron when it comes to this stuff. And they're unable to see the writing on the wall. Their answer to this is probably to make Survivor Series a 2 fucking night event. So they don't seem to understand when things start going badly. Obviously, internally, WWE isn't thrilled with these numbers, I wouldn't think, but they only have the fucking building set up to 29,000 anyway. So they're going to reach capacity here. But if you're only putting in 29,000, just go back to basketball arenas. Just go back to Staples or United Center or Barclays or any of these big markets where, you know, you could maybe a Homestead SummerSlam again. It was in LA for like 5 years, wasn't it? I'd almost rather go back to that than attempt football stadiums. If you're going to fill 30% of a football stadium, why book it in a football stadium? That's stupid. So don't do that. Just go back to arenas for the SummerSlams. But I think when it's all said and done, The attendance will be in the 30,000 range, but I don't think it's going to be greater than All In. Speaking of All In, let's take a look at their ticket sales. So SummerSlam, don't forget, they're coming up on August 1st. All In is a full month away nearly after SummerSlam. SummerSlam's August 1st. All In is August 30th. And with that show being a month further away, they have still sold 6,000 plus more tickets than SummerSlam. So they're at about 28,000 right now. They have a current setup of about 37. And like I said, I expect both SummerSlam and All In to be in the 30,000 fan range. But as it stands right now, it's really looking like All In is going to easily outdraw SummerSlam in terms of attendance. But a lot of that is also reflected in the price. If you obviously All In is in Wembley, so fans here in the States don't have to choose. But if you did, and you see a floor seat for AEW for $150 and that same seat in WWE for $1,050, which one are you going to go to? You're probably going to get more wrestling for your buck in AEW, a lot more, and it's also cheaper. So not only are you getting more for your money, it's also much, much more affordable. Much more affordable. So it's not surprising that WWE is dealing with these attendance figures. But we had the same conversations prior to WrestleMania. And I told the fans, don't get too excited. If you're one of these people that actually wants WWE to fail, I don't. But if you do, don't get too excited because at the end they're going to move a bunch of tickets at the end, and that's the way it always goes. So even though SummerSlam is struggling, and they're only at 22,000 right now for Saturday, I expect that to ramp up pretty quick in the final week to the show. And I still think the attendance will be perfectly respectable. It's just when you got a 70,000 seat arena, why do you not want to fill that? Why do you not want to price super cheap tickets and try to get as many fans in there as you can? That's the way Vince was. That's the way the old WWE was. And think about that. WWE has priced so many families out of going to shows. You now find yourself in a situation where excuse me, if you wanted to, you could make some very, very cheap tickets available and fill the arena. They're cock blocking their own audience. They're tarping off 60% of the arena because they don't want to sell cheap tickets. Put tickets for $10. Put the entire fucking top level at $10 and fill it. Why don't they do that? Makes no sense to me. So the attendance thing is weird, but SummerSlam is struggling a little bit. All right, what else can I talk about? We got the watch-along coming up here soon. We got to wrap this up. Vice has aired the first two parts of Dark Side of the Ring Season 7. Basically the first episode is a 3-part episode on Jeff Jarrett and the battle for TNA. They released the first 2 parts on the same night last Tuesday, and part 3 comes out this Tuesday. Now, I watched the first 2 the first 2 parts of Dark Side of the Ring on the plane coming home on Friday from Maui. So I didn't make any notes or whatever, but what I took away from those is that, and a lot of fans probably know TNA history a little bit better than I do. So a lot of fans were saying things that, there's a lot of lying going on. There's a lot of blame pointing. There's a lot of fiction. And a lot of these stories aren't true. I don't really know how much of this is true and not true because, as you guys know, I've never really been a fan of TNA. Unfortunately, no matter how hard I tried, I never vibed with that company, with what they did, with how they looked, with the announcers, with the arena, with the ring, with the attitude, the presentation. None of that vibed with me. The talent was off the fucking chain. Your Kurt Angle and AJ Styles and Samoa Joes and, all the great TNA originals, your Christopher Danielses and Abysses and guys like that. There was tremendous talent there and good matches to be found. Plenty of good matches throughout the lifespan of TNA to be found and enjoyed. But I still just never really cared for the product. I lived through the Attitude Era as in my 20s. I was going to shows. I lived and breathed the Monday Night Wars at the best possible age that you could be as a wrestling fan. And now all that was over, and I'm expected to watch this little wrestling show in a soundstage in the Impact Zone with the cheesy, everything was so cheesy. It was also cheesy to me. All of it was just weird and dumb. They tried too hard to be the Attitude Era. when a lot of that stuff was starting to already run its course. And for a guy like myself, or a fan like myself that already experienced everything that I already seen, TNA just wasn't going to speak to me. It wasn't, but it spoke to another generation of fans, and a lot of people really loved TNA. They just weren't for me. But I was interested to see the story here and to hear Jeff Jarrett's side of things. And, the first 2 episodes focused, they basically went all the way up until Hulk Hogan being brought in. And so they talked about the origin of TNA, how Jeff got fired by Vince McMahon live on television during the simulcast, and then wanting to create his own place to work because now there's a monopoly and WWE doesn't have any competition. So, him and his dad came up with this idea to run the weekly pay-per-views and to start their own wrestling promotion. And he found funding through a guy that he knew who was like the head of Health South. And then the Health South thing fell apart pretty quickly. And Dixie Carter was already working there in the promotional department or doing some sort of work for them. And she was the one who said, you need to talk to my parents. And that's how the Carters got brought in. As, the folks that would fund and own the company. And there was a lot of finger pointing at Dixie, a lot of Dixie's immaturity, not knowing anything about wrestling and, trying so hard to be the boss. And there was a lot of tensions with her and Jeff Jarrett that were chronicled, and how Dixie really, really wanted Jeff to be wanted her to be Jeff's boss. It was all about that. All about power plays and egos and shit like that. Just sounded like a mess. So they have Jeff Jarrett. They had James Mitchell was interviewed for this thing. Some other random TNA talent, but we had no Dixie on the show. There was no Dixie. We had Vince Russo, however. Scott D'Amore also was there. But Dixie was reached for comment, but never responded. She didn't want to be a part of this documentary. So there's a lot of blaming going on, some blaming Jeff, some blaming Dixie, some blaming the system, some blaming a lot of guys. But the power struggles were really, I think, heavily chronicled there. And also Jeff's personal life. They talked about his wife and her battle with breast cancer, ultimately losing that battle, and then talked a lot about his relationship with Karen Angle, or Karen Jarrett. And Karen... She was interviewed for this as well, and she set the record straight. She wanted to make it clear that Karen and Kurt were already separated when Karen started hanging out with Jeff Jarrett, and the way their relationship kind of became public, Dixie didn't know about it and then found out and used that as a way to muscle Jeff out, only to call him back to court Hulk Hogan. So Jeff claims that he did that, and then Dixie went and turned around and took all the credit for it. So they basically told the story about the origin of TNA, then the identity that they wanted TNA to have. They talked a lot about, those ECW chants and, having a TNA chant and creating their own kind of environment like that of real diehard fans. But TNA really could never stop stepping on their own dicks and never getting out of their own way, really. And there was just a lot of problems there, from talent acquisitions to departures to people in charge to power struggles and power plays and politics and all of that stuff was really, what led to things falling off the rails. So part 3 is going to talk all about Hulk Hogan and his time there in TNA. And a lot of what they said were some of the things that I was echoing years ago when I was a little more vocal about my dislike for TNA. The biggest thing that annoyed me about them is them trying to create an alternate competition, an alternate brand to WWE, getting away from some of the silly shit that WWE does. But then every time a WWE star would get released, no matter who they were, TNA would just bring them in. And that was my biggest issue, is you had guys there like Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Abyss putting the work in. The company is on their backs. They are the backbone of that entire company. And then you bring a bunch of ex-WWE guys in and give them the top spots over the very backbone that helped build you and bring you to where you are. And that was always one of my biggest problems with them. And that was talked about a lot, and I'm sure it's going to be talked a lot more about in part 3. So that's kind of like a really brief review there on the first 2 episodes of Dark Side of the Ring. Excited to see how the rest of that goes. Speaking of things that are dark, Dark side of the ring? Well, guess what? The Dark Order has re-signed with AEW. How about that? Evil Uno, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds, who I haven't even seen in a while. I don't know if they've been working Ring of Honor. I think Evil Uno was a coach there. I wasn't even sure if Silver was even under contract still. So these guys have all re-signed. I would love to see them get back to TV. Maybe they can start doing shit with Hangman Page again. Who knows? But if we have a re-emergence of the Dark Order, that would be great because they have a lot of history tied to the beginning of AEW, the origins of AEW, and of course, Brody Lee, the Exalted One, and all that stuff. Happy to see that the Dark Order will remain a part of AEW because they are a big part of their history and their beginning. So happy about that because I'm a big fan of all three guys. So that was good news. Here's some more good news. Fucking Jake Hager. So, of course, this moron competes in this power slap. Big surprise. You have to be an absolute dipshit to even do this. I saw a lot of people saying, you got to give him credit for having the balls to do that. No. This doesn't take balls. This takes pure, unadulterated stupidity to compete in something like this. And he won his first slap fight and looked right into the camera and said, fuck Tony Khan. Tony Khan, a guy who gave this never fucking was 5 years of employment. He played second fiddle to a hat. And he's going to say, fuck Tony Khan. Why? Because you suck? It's nobody's fault that you suck. It's nobody's fault that you're the worst promo in the history of the business. It's nobody's fault that you have a douche face. It's nobody's fault that you're an asshole, except for you. It's nobody's fault that you can't get over. It's nobody's fault that the fans don't like you. It's yours. So now he's back at Power Slap, and this big bastard that's lining up Hager's face here, I think his last name's Singh, and he just blasts Jake, and he just goes right down, just stiff as a board. This is the dumbest fucking sport or form of entertainment in human history. It's like you're watching CTE in real time. You're watching people get it. You get that? You're watching people get CTE. Whoopsh. There's some CT fury for you. Like that fucking Oprah. You get CTE and you get CTE. It is so unbelievably stupid that this is allowed or illegal. There's another one that's like Power Slap where the two guys just run and just crash into each other head first and see who lives. Like, it's so dumb. And it does not take balls. It takes stupidity. You have to be stupid to do this. I think you have to be stupid to watch it. But some people do. I never will. I'll watch the clips because they come up on social media. They're impossible to not see. So I didn't go and watch Jake Hager have this slap fight. I didn't even know they had an event, much less he was in one. I didn't learn it till it hit social media. So Hager goes down. Hopefully he will end his power slap career because you just have to be the dumbest motherfucker in the world to do this. You know, everything that your body does, from movement to speaking to eating to just living to breathing, everything is controlled by the organ in your head that's getting smacked around on purpose by somebody else with superhuman powers. You're actively accepting giving yourself brain damage. And what could the possible fucking payout for that be? I'm assuming the winner gets more, and I'm sure the loser gets a purse too. But what is Jake Hager's payday for that? Is he under contract? Does he just get a flat rate per fight? Does he sign for one lump sum and he has to do it X amount of times for X amount of slap fights? Like, how does it work? Like, I want to know financially what Jake Hager is getting paid for this, because I want to know what he thinks is worth doing that to your brain. I mean, I'll take one slap for $1 million, but I ain't gonna permanently brain damage myself because I think it makes me tough. It doesn't make you tough, Jake Hager. It makes you stupid. You're stupid. You're stupid. Everybody that has the politics that he has are stupid people. And so caught up in this fucking alpha male bullshit. Oh my God. So dumb. So that brought a smile to my face. What didn't bring a smile to my face, though, was Rhea Ripley and Buddy Matthews were there. They were in the crowd watching this, being super entertained by it, those sick Australian freaks. But Ripley was also interviewed during the event or after the event or before the event, and she was asked about her injury, and she talks about how she does have a slight meniscus tear that she's trying to work through, so no surgery, but there is no timetable on her return yet. So we don't know. And she's the champion. So we got to keep our eye on this. She's, as of the other night, she is just still completely unsure of when she'll be able to get back to the ring. At least that's what she says. So I think WWE's holding out hope she'll be all right for SummerSlam, but SummerSlam's coming up in just a couple of weeks. We don't have a challenger for her because Io Sky's facing Liv Morgan. So I don't know what's going to happen with Ripley and the championship and who she might be facing at SummerSlam, if anybody, but she might miss it. She might have to forfeit the title. So all the best to Ripley. We love her. And speaking of things that bring a smile to my face, you guys catch the UFC fight last night with Conor McGregor going down in the whole fight was 1 minute and 15 seconds. As soon as they started fighting, Conor comes in with this kick that he misses and then comes up funny on the knee, falls down 2 or 3 times on the knee while his opponent, I forget his name, starts trying to punch him. And then he gets up one more time and then he kind of flinches on the knee and the referee just stops it. So, there is nothing better and more enjoyable to me than to watch a complete piece of shit rapist get embarrassed or have something incredibly disappointing happen to him. It's the same feeling I get when a little puppy gets adopted from the shelter. It's fuzzy. It just warms my heart. So hopefully this will be the end of this douchebag, Conor McGregor, in MMA, he hasn't worked in 5 years, and he came out. Oh my God, the memes and the fucking videos. The best one has got to be the Aaron Rodgers, carrying the American flag out to the fucking field and then tears his knee in the first fucking play. Beautiful. And so it was like that. It was like Nash falling and tearing his quad, or Vince at the Royal Rumble 1995, or all sorts of other great examples and comparisons to what Conor did last night. But Conor McGregor losing that fight with his bum knee and all those dumb fans there. I can't stand the UFC. I just fucking hate it. I hate Dana White. I hate UFC. I hate the culture that it breeds. And not all, because I know a lot of you guys watch UFC and like it, but like MMA, I don't give a fuck about it at all. Somebody once told me, you don't know anything about MMA. Good. I don't want to know. I do not care about punchy face. I just don't. So I love to see that, and I think it's funny that some people paid. I think, didn't you have to pay for it? You had to pay to see it, and then that happened. That's so nice. I can't feel bad for people who paid to see that. Why would you pay to see a complete asshole piece of shit fight? I mean, unless you want to see him get beat up. But to me, this was even more enjoyable because he just basically quit a minute in, and he completely sucks. Tito, you okay? Tito is sleeping with his eyes open. It's very creepy when he does that. So I loved that happening to Conor McGregor last night. It was wonderful. Well, we have got to come back here in less than a half an hour to watch International Incident, but we still have talking to do. I got to go over here to the chat and see what you guys are saying, answer the super chats and whatnot, and all that jazz. So let me go up here and try to find out where we left off on the super chats. I might have to go into the master list there because I think I've lost my spot here. There we go. I'm just going to go into the master list so I don't miss anybody. And like I said, whatever the biggest one is, I'm going to take that, match it, and we're going to send that on over to Sammy for Syria today because that's what he asked for his birthday. And since he just lost the WWE Championship, I feel like we owe that to him. We've donated to his charity before. So we'll send just a few bucks, nothing crazy. We'll send him 40 or 50 bucks, depending on what the super chats say here. Probably after the watch along now. Although I do have it on my phone. I can donate right through my phone. I'll try to do it before we go live. If not, I'll have to do it tonight. Where are we at here? Okay, super chats. I got that one from Rarely Even. All right, here we go. Rarely Even, I got your first 3. And now you've got 10 more. So we're going to circle back to this 10 from Rarely Even. Thank you for that, my friend. This is nothing new in wrestling. WWE puts their world titles on guys who draw money. CM Punk is a bigger draw than Sami Zayn. Cinderella stories don't draw money. Wrong. they do. Not all of them. But you can't just make a blanket statement like that. That's inaccurate. You can't say Cinderella stories don't draw money. Daniel Bryan, 2014, that drew. People were very happy that happened. They made that match happen. They forced it into existence. They were about to give us Randy Orton versus Batista, and the fans were like, nah, that's idiotic. Give us the Cinderella story. So no, you can't just say Cinderella stories don't draw. Some don't, some do. I'm not a believer in blanket statements. Rarely Even. You should know that by now. Daniel, good to see you. Thanks for the $2. You walked to Hawaii once. It's a long walk, man. So fucking long, but godlike figures like ourselves, we can just ride across the water. That's what we do. What's up, Vontae? Good to see you, man. Appreciate that $9.99. Sup, Greg? I've told you this before, but here's my official prediction. Brock loses to Oba. That's right. You did tell me that before, and I forgot. Taker comes out and announces Brock as the first member of the 2027 Hall of Fame class. Yeah, that could happen. I love that idea. The only thing that makes me wonder about that, though, is do you think if that happened, that any of that would take away from Oba's win? Like, I think Oba's win should breathe, and then that announcement should happen. Because if it happens right after, it will still be a great moment, but I think we're going to come away from that remembering Brock retiring and Undertaker coming out to announce the Hall of Fame induction more than Oba's victory. So maybe what I would rather have happen is have Oba win. Maybe Brock does the gloves thing. What does that mean? Is he retiring for real? And then maybe Brock's on Raw. Is Raw still in Minnesota on Monday? I don't know. It probably is. If Raw is in Minnesota, then Brock can come out on Raw, and maybe that's where you do the Undertaker thing. Maybe Brock comes out to officially confirm that, yeah, what you saw last night with me, going on there? What you saw with me taking off my gloves, it's for real this time. I'm really retiring. Maybe even Oba Femi comes out and the two shake hands. Maybe it's like a passing of the torch. And again, you can do your idea at SummerSlam and do it all right there. That's fine. But I think if you let Oba's victory breathe a bit, you can have Brock come out on Raw, officially announce that the retirement is real, and then Undertaker hits the ring. And you could have Oba come out before. It was a pleasure to beat you, my friend, or whatever, or Brock, acknowledges, hey, you beat me in the cell. Nobody's beat me in there before. I know it's over now, and there's a little show of respect, a little torch passing between Brock and Oba. And then Oba leaves the ring to let Brock have his goodbye. And then Undertaker comes out. Hall of Fame. I would like that. That would be cool. That would be cool. Mike Witt's got a couple of $10 drops for us. First one says, I'm not super upset about Punk winning. Figured it would happen. I'm more pissed about the Vision winning the tag titles because Breaker should not be with them anymore. He's a star. Treat him like it. I don't know what they're doing with Braun Breaker. I have no idea. Again, it might just be a treading water situation with him. Like they got big plans, but maybe right now, just the landscape, there's not a spot for him where they want him yet, and they're just waiting until the time is right. Who knows? But yeah, I kind of think that Breaker should be out of the Vision. And now that he's tag team champions again, I mean, at least he's a belt holder, but I think we'd all like to see more for him, right? Oh, I gotta open that window. There we go. Pardon me while I just open my window, get a little bit of fresh air here while I finish off these last super chats. 10 more from Mike Witt. He says, you think Powerhouse Hobbs regrets leaving AEW a little bit? It just seems like his booking on SmackDown has been a little bit underwhelming. He should have been booked like SmackDown's version of Oba. I'm all for making him a force. I don't know if I think it's impossible to book anybody like Oba. I think there's only one Oba, but Powerhouse says he's loving his time there, and he was used well for a little while there. He debuted at the Rumble, then he was gone. Then when he showed up on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago, he was like in 4 or 5 segments on the same show. So they were using him. But since, about a month ago, it feels like that's tapered off a bit. But in terms of if he regrets it or not, I don't know. I'm not inside of his head. Probably not yet. I think he's still probably pretty optimistic. He's pretty early on in his run still. But, if a year goes by and he's still facing fucking Tala Tonga or whatever on SmackDown, then yeah, he may feel like he regrets it. But I like Powerhouse Hobbs. I'm rooting for him hard. Oh, God. No. If a year goes by. Okay, phew. Jesus, I read that next super chat from Garrett. Thanks for the $2. You said my mic sounds like Max Headroom. I hope not. I just checked my mic. I'm like, do I sound like Max Headroom? Anybody remember Max Headroom from the 1980s? Here's a fun fact for you. You know who Max Headroom was? The actor that played him. Have you ever seen, at least I think, have you ever seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? It came out in like 87. Rick Moranis shrinks the whole fucking family down with the neighbor's kid. Max Headroom is the dad. The neighbor dad. The neighbor dad with the two sons. One of the sons is the kid, is the friend in Big, the movie Big, and the other son is just some schmuck. But the dad in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the dad neighbor, he's the actor, I believe, who played Max Headroom. But I'm glad that my mic doesn't sound like him. Unless I go beep, 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 beep. Get all pixely on you like Max Headroom. He was a big deal back in the day. Mike Witt's got 5 more. Sounds like Kane's voice with the voice box. Did something happen to my mic? Did something happen earlier on? I'm glad that my mic doesn't sound like it. Did something happen earlier? When did that happen? Here, buddy. So apparently my mic might have sounded... It doesn't sound bad to me. I think when you overanalyze that, you're trying too hard to make wrestling real, and it's just not. Oh, we might have had some static. However, I think it should be... Did we have staticky shit or something? Crap. Sorry about that, guys. I'm seeing all this. New one's got $2. Says, my name is Greg in my Kane voice. So there must be some feedback. Everything looks fine, but I'm worried now. Garrett Osborne, you got 5 more. It was great seeing MJF give tribute to the original Triple B, Bam Bam Bigelow, and Omega giving a gear nod to New Day with the purple Power Rangers tights. I did notice the gear, but I didn't. I wasn't sure if the Triple B was a Bam Bam tribute or not. But that is interesting. Triple B, Bam Bam Bigelow, Zane, Chi. Appreciate the $20 for you, man. That is the total that we are going to match, or I'm going to match that. We're going to round it from 40 to 50, and we're going to send $50 over to Sammy for Syria, courtesy of the Good Mic Work crew. Thank you so much for that, Zane. And thank you for that $20 drop. Last Tuesday night, I met and took a picture with Paige, TNA superstar Moose, among others, at the Good and the Good Brothers at Independence Rumble wrestling event. Head over to Twitter and give it a like. Glad you're back, my friend. I will, Zane. I will go over there and check that out right now. Or better yet, tag me in it or just send it to me so I can see it. And I will definitely give that a like. That's so cool. How was Paige? She's so gorgeous. I mean, Moose is pretty gorgeous too, but when I'm like looking at Paige and Moose, like who I think's hotter, I think I'm going to go with Paige on that one. Yeah. Mike Witt, 5 more from you. The match I want to see it all in is Jay White versus Mox for Mox's title, with Mox finally dropping the title to Jay at Wembley. I like that. I like that. That would be a great match for him and a great title for Jay White to win in Wembley. I'm all about that. And 5 more from Zane coming off the SummerSlam attendance. It'll end up like WrestleMania 37. First one back from COVID. Yeah, we remember that. Oh, man. All right. Well, that catches up the super chats there. Let me see. Now let me scroll down to the chat and see if you guys gave me an update on what was going on with my mic. Okay, it was during my SmackDown review portion. I'm sorry about that. Everything's plugged in. All my connections are good, so I don't know what's going on there. I will, however, look at that and try to make sure that that is all rectified before we go live for the watch-along, which goes live in a half an hour. We might go up like 5 minutes late. I'll try to get this all ready. I want to have a quick little snack before we go live for International Incident, but that's what we're going to be watching. In Your House International Incident. We're going to be watching that at the top of the hour, so we're going to sign off here, take a quick 20 or 30-minute break, and we will be back to watch this one from 1996, and I got a lot of memories about that one. Hopefully, the mic issue did not last too long because I do want to post this podcast over on the podcast feed, so I'm sorry about that earlier on. I will rewind and listen to that and make sure that wasn't too horrifying for you guys. But thanks for letting me know. No, Zane, I did not. Thank you for 5 more. I did not cover Vikingo vacating the AAA championship, but I did see that Dominic and Del Grande are going to be teaming up in a tag team match coming up. But I have not educated myself on the Vikingo situation. I did know that I think it was hurt, but I don't know the story. I didn't educate myself on that and did not report it. Zane. We'll get into that tomorrow on the Raw review, if we do one. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here for a few minutes. Thank you so much for hanging out today on our big catch-up podcast. Now it's time for a mustard watch-along. All right, guys, catch you in about 30 minutes for International Incident. Y'all have a good one. Peace.